Real Country 550 and 92.9 WAME and W225BD Statesville.
Welcome to Racing Roots with Hamm.
If you don't know our host, David Hamm, he's a 25-year NASCAR veteran, engine builder, and jackman.
Live every Monday evening, we have a new guest
From the racing world with their stories, their paths,
Their racing
roots.
sponsored by Jersey Cape Yachts.
Now here's our host, David Hamm.
And good evening, everyone, and welcome to Racing Roots with Hamm right here on 550 AM, 92.9 FM, and DHammiam on YouTube. And we're also streaming on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and not Instagram yet, but we're on all those social medias, so you can go in there and check it out because you're going to want to see this guy right here. He is a living legend, and I'm glad that he's living because, I mean, we've had some tough times here lately. Anyway, we got Andy Stapp on with us, and Andy Stapp and I worked together back at Sabco, and then you went on to other greater things, I guess you could say. Done pretty good.
I say, I don't know about greater, but we kept on going through all this fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
Surprisingly sufficient.
Absolutely. Now I got free of the NASCAR world, and we get to build hot rods for people
Yes.
that have good budgets. So
That's the fun stuff, right? Yeah, man.
They don't come back on Monday destroyed and have to be done again by Wednesday to go back to the track.
Right.
So it works out all right.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to, and I don't have to hear, hey, we need this engine, but we need it tomorrow, or we need it, this evening. Which, hey, I mean, it was all a challenge. It was good while it lasted, but one of those things.
We didn't realize how much fun we were having.
Yeah, back in the Savco days, we really had a good time.
We did.
All of our travels and stuff, and the cool drivers that we had with Kyle Petty and Sterling Martin. Were you around with Sterling? I was trying to remember.
My little sister got so ticked off at me.
Yeah.
I left to go to Hendrick as Sterling was coming in.
Oh, okay.
So I missed. Glover got there. We had Robbie Gordon, and I don't know our listeners will understand.
Yeah.
I'd had enough of Armando.
Oh, I understand.
I had to go do something different.
Right. Yeah.
And the opportunity came up at Hendrick, so I jumped on it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, very good. I mean, I thought you were there 2 years then, I guess, right, at Sabco?
Yes.
Okay. 2 seasons.
2 seasons almost. Yeah, we're going into the third one. We went through the Daytona Thrash, and I left Sabco once the Daytona cars were done to go to Hendrick with Tony Furr on the 25 Budweiser car to jump right into the frying pan to finish the Daytona cars over there.
Okay.
Because we were thrashing there just the same. So I think I left Sabco on a Friday and then worked all weekend, my first weekend at Hendrick, Saturday and Sunday. And he told us at the end of Sunday, hey, y'all go enjoy the weekend, and we'll see you back bright and early tomorrow morning.
Oh, right.
And it was about 10 o'clock at night when we were leaving. So it was just enough pillow time to turn around and come back for Monday.
Yeah, I understand. Remember some of those days. Of course, I got Tracy here with me as well. And then we got the young Bryson over here. That's her name, right? I always want to say Patrick Swayze, so I apologize if I'm saying their name wrong. So, all right, say hey to everybody.
Hey, everybody.
There you go. All right. So he's going to keep up with the comments on Facebook. And if you are on Facebook and you want to see the different camera angles and that type of stuff, you can switch over to DHammiam on YouTube, and we'll get some close-ups of Andy and maybe a few of Tracy.
Let's get more close-ups of Tracy. She's a whole lot prettier. We don't want to scare everybody off.
Yeah, there you go.
We got to get a good shot of his hair, though, because that rocks.
I do, yes. We'll have to turn this cam over there at some point.
Perfect.
This one is on me, isn't it?
I was short one camera cable, so we had to make some last-minute adjustments here. But we're good. We're ready to go on with the show. And also, I think one of the last times I talked to you, I was either texting Tony Uri Sr. or I was texting you, one or the other, but y'all were together.
Those were great days.
Sure.
Tony Sr. is like a second dad. I mean, we had such a great time together. The most enjoyable, most fun time I had with the Cup teams was working with both Uris, Tony Jr. and Tony Sr.
Yeah.
And those two would get to arguing and fighting and fussing at each other. Yeah.
and everybody in the shop would scatter and go hide because they got really, really loud and it got really heated. And I grabbed a stool and slid up in a stool right against the table where they were. And they're going at each other, and I'm sitting there just elbows on the table watching them. Tony Sr. looks at me and says, "What the heck are you doing?"
Yeah.
Well, he might have had a different word, but what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
And I looked at him. I said, "Y'all, don't stop. Keep it up." I said, "You guys are making me so homesick." My dad and I converse like this. This is how we communicate too.
Yeah.
And man, when I get done here, when you get done, I'm gonna call Dad and tell him I miss him. But you guys are just making me homesick.
Yeah.
Tony Sr. got to laughing. He couldn't stay mad at Tony Jr. He's like, "Damn you!" I had a point I was trying to make with him, but I can't even stay mad at him now.
You ruined it for him.
Ruined the whole moment.
And, I can say, and you probably can too, working with my son, it's very difficult. It's for whatever reason, you really want them to do things the way you want them to do them, but you also want them to learn. A lot of times it's like you want them to learn, you want them to remember everything. And it's hard. I get madder at him than I do anybody else.
Both of you are headstrong.
That too, but
Both
Him?
of them.
Headstrong?
Yeah.
Really?
Hard-headed.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
sure.
never saw that.
Yeah.
I'm about to turn her mic off. By the way, anyway,
It's okay. I know how to
yeah.
fix that.
My youngest son, Joey, we have two boys. Sam's 22, Joey's 20. When Joey, before he had the last growth spurt where he went up to 6'8", 6'8 and a quarter, wherever the heck he is now with size 16 shoes, he's just like growing out of the house.
Hold on, say that again.
He's almost 6'9".
Really?
Yeah, he's 6'8 and about a quarter, and size like he's a 40 waist with a 41 or 42 inseam on his pants. It's
Oh my gosh.
ridiculous.
Okay.
Can't find clothes for the kid anywhere. Size 16 shoes, that's the biggest thing you can get. If you
Yeah.
go to 17, they come with a boat trailer, a fish finder, and a trolling motor. So the price goes up on that next round of shoes. So I'm trying to keep him stuck at 16s because I can afford those.
Wow.
But
Okay.
yeah, he has grown out of race cars, but we raced outlaw carts at Millbridge with him. And it's that same thing. We fussed, we argued. I'm sure he was so fed up and sick and tired of me, he wanted to walk home multiple nights.
Yeah.
And he'd had enough of that whole thing. But it was that, hey, I need this. If we're going to do this, we got to do this with full effort. And then you realize that his so long, we had the seat moved so far back in the car. And go-karts, you kind of need to be small, little horse jockey all the way in the front of them. And we had his seat. I mean, heck, his butt was back on the rear tires. So that thing would go in the corner and it'd just like a rock on a string. It'd swing the rear end around because all the weight was back there. And
Yeah, I had that issue too.
we couldn't get it to turn. Then when it did turn, it just slid like crazy. So poor kid had it rough.
I don't know if you remember me racing out there, and that's kind of the same issue I had. I just wanted to spin right around. Wouldn't want to turn for nothing. And then I'd overcorrect and then run around.
You used to have a go-kart track behind your house.
Yeah.
We used to come over and you ran shifter carts and stuff over there. And that was, I get a 250 shifter cart. And that was so cool. I can't remember squat anymore. I'm getting so old and I hit my head so many times. But I can remember some of those really cool times we had.
Yeah, man. Ivan Scopatone would bring his over.
Yep.
And Kenny Colt's back. I don't know if Kenny brought his. He might have brought his down there. I know he took it to Millbridge with us before because his was super fast.
My oldest son, Sam, works for Kenny at his component shop, making
Carbon fiber seats now.
Okay, good.
Kenny had an ad on a while back trying to find some kids that could show up and work and not be on their telephone and everything all day long.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the telephone thing, but Sam does a good job for him over there, and Kenny's pretty happy with him. So,
But he's got a good work ethic. That's good.
somewhat, yes.
Yeah. I understand.
So
All
we
right.
do have some questions coming in, but before
Okay.
we get to the questions, tell us how you got into racing.
I was born into this stuff.
You were?
And once I got in and realized it, I realized I was too lazy to work, too afraid to steal. So at that point, racing's about all you have left. So we made the best of it.
That's what you knew.
But my grandfather raced. My dad built race cars. He drove up until the point where my mom became pregnant with me. And in the 60s with roll bars, no roll cages, they were losing one or two drivers a month easily. And he made the decision that he did not want somebody else to have to raise his kid. So he quit racing and put other drivers in his cars at that point and went to being a car builder and a car owner and didn't drive anymore after that. So he hired the guys that were available to him. He had a few pretty decent guys. AJ Foyt drove for him, Mario Andretti, Johnny Rutherford, George Snyder, Pancho Carter, multiple wins and championships with him. So I got to grow up around some really, really cool people.
Yeah, sounds like it.
So when you do that, you kind of still realize, man, this racing stuff's really fun.
Oh,
so just carry on, keep it going. Later on, when I was in high school, I built my first sprint car out of parts and pieces we had around the shop, and I wasn't old enough to drive it. You had to be 18 back then, so I had to hire some different guys to jump in and drive for me. We did that for quite a while, and then I finally got to the point where I was close enough. We lied about my age. We went to Paragon the first night, and a little quarter-mile dirt track south of Indianapolis. And I killed my car the very first night I drove it. I found the wall coming off turn 4 in the feature and tumbled the thing down the front straightaway and flipped it. Once Mom got to me, found out I was okay, she was emotionally goofed up, and she was probably on a female adrenaline because she made a mistake. Tell me it'll be okay, we'll put another one together. And shortly after, we had a new J&J car, and we carried on and kept on racing. So I ran sprint cars until... In 1988, I crashed at Eldora, broke my neck, knocked the roll cage off one of them we had, and got hurt. So then we started building our own cars again in 89, and I ran up until part of 91, but I had headaches and complications from the broken neck, so it was over with. So from that point on, we put other guys in the car. And then I understood exactly what my dad was talking about and what he went through by putting guys driving his cars, because I was coming along. Hiring some guy to drive your race car is like paying some guy to take your wife out. It just doesn't work. It's just not fulfilling and satisfying at all.
That's an
and
idea.
it's not about, no. I will happily take Tracy to dinner, no problem. She's cute, way prettier than you are.
Yeah. Hey,
And
what
I eat
about
less.
me? Yeah.
I can say that,
It
yes.
does, that's for sure. Yeah. But I can save you some money. Eat half price. Don't take anybody. Just go out by yourself. Anyway, that's another story.
My wife would probably appreciate it better that way, too. She's not jealous at all. If Tracy would take me, she'd probably pay her, at least subsidize part of it to get rid of me for a while.
Right. Yeah. I would probably. Oh, never mind. We're better stop. Put the shovel.
We're
Put the
both gonna be in
shovel
trouble.
down. So all the times that I said, "Have you bumped your head?" I didn't really mean it. I didn't realize you'd ever done that to your neck.
Yeah. I've had 9 concussions through my driving time.
Wow.
And yeah, it's I forget everything anymore. I have a stainless steel sieve for a memory.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But thank God I have an iPhone because it remembers all kinds of cool stuff.
Does
so
doesn't it?
it gets
That's
me
great.
where I need to be, and And then I get around like my little buddy Jerry Nadeau. He's hit his way harder than I have,
Yep.
so he has even more problems remembering things. So it makes me feel a lot better.
I talked to Jerry at Stocks for Tots last week. First time in forever.
Yeah,
Many years ago.
awesome guy.
Yeah.
He used to feed us at Hendrick when he drove for us. He'd feed us all the time. And as a fat guy, kind of really get to where you like a guy that feeds you all the
yeah,
time. He'd bring in
absolutely.
lunch regularly.
I'm with you, but I'm not a fat guy, but I like to be fed.
You're not at all fat, so you
Yeah,
can't
I
really
like to be
you can't
fed.
really voice in on this conversation. You don't fit the mold.
It's funny,
it.
I'm the one that always ends up cooking.
Yeah, well, I mean, here's the deal. I've tried cooking, but it's like I don't do it just right, and I don't wash the dishes just right, so I just don't,
Yeah, likely story.
I pick on my wife, and I tell the thing that her favorite thing to make for dinner is reservations.
Yes.
Not really true. She's really good at cooking. I'm the one that makes reservations because if it's up to me, we're going someplace. They
Yeah.
wash dishes. They do all that crap. All you got to do is go and get what you want, and you can be fairly picky and then go on.
That is good, because I know I went to the grocery store last whatever night it was, and it was Friday, whatever. I spent $60, and I was thinking, okay, I just spent $60, and then I got to go home and cook this stuff. I could have just went and got a takeout, and because my time is valuable,
Absolutely. No
it's worth
doubt.
something.
And at the end of that, and $60, you think, man, I'm going to have to eat like 4 or 5 meals out of this.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And would have been way cheaper just to 1 or 2 people. That's where you can eat out cheaper than you can eat in. But it gives you body by drive-through.
Well, and speaking of that, I'm not really that, but you have a very close resemblance to your dad. I mean, in your face. I was going to say in your face.
No, you're good.
Your dad's a big guy. He was
Yes.
a big guy.
Always a big guy, yes. For Halloween, we had friends that had a costume party. I got home late. We were at Mountain Creek racing. Got home with Ed Watkins. Remember Ed?
Ed Watkins, yeah.
Yep,
I
Ed
do.
Watkins Marine. His little guy, Ryland, runs an outlaw cart, and we take care of him. He's 11 years old now and just started racing, and he's winning heat races, and he's running up front in features, and he's doing a great job. We're having all kinds of fun. So we go racing with him as well because it's fun to go with kids that get it and like it and enjoy it.
Yeah.
So got home, had 30 minutes from the time I walked in till we had to go to this Halloween party. I'm searching around. There's nothing. The kids all have costumes. I have nothing. I looked at my wife. I was like, man, I might have to go as me. Nobody will know me. And she looked at me. She said, I have a pair of your dad's bib overalls.
Yeah.
I put those on with a big pillow in the front of them because my belly wasn't quite enough. And then he always wore a white T-shirt underneath his bibs, but he wore a button-down shirt on the outside and usually a plaid pattern. Dug in the closet, found all that, put everything together, took a picture, sent it to my mom and my sister. My dad just passed away in April. Send this picture to Mom and Susanna, and they're both like, double take, triple take. Oh my God, where'd you find this? And they thought it was him at first with the hair, and I had the stance and everything else right. So yeah, when we got to the party, it was no question who I was for
Mr. Steve
Halloween.
Stapp.
I was, and it was cool.
Yeah.
And if that's about the best way I'm going to fill those big shoes he had, but I will try.
I saw one of the pictures he was standing in front of one of the old, I guess an old sprint car or something, but somebody made a comment that they almost didn't recognize him without his bib overalls on.
Yes. The bib overalls came about. I have the picture. I have to search it out. Mm-hmm. He and AJ Foyt grew up together. They were friends. They raced together. AJ drove for him, and Dad, crew chief for Foyt quite a few times, was gas man for him at Indy. They raced together all over the place. They had an issue at Indianapolis Raceway Park, and I have the picture of Dad going over the wall. AJ was broken down, and Dad trying to get out there to him, and he jumped the wall, and his pants fell down in front of the crowd and everybody. And he grabbed them, pulls them back up, and kept on digging. From that point on, it was bib overalls because they don't fall down on you, and you don't advertise and flash all the fans in the stands.
Yeah, or you could get some suspenders.
Yes.
Well,
It's Will
too late now,
Cronkite. He wears suspenders all the time.
That's
Exactly.
right. I did when I was a kid. I had some of those Mork and Mindy. From Warwick.
Yeah, the red rainbow suspenders.
Yeah, of course. I wouldn't wear them now.
Not
anyway,
me neither. Back then they were cool.
Yeah, they were, and they had the little thumbs up and all this stuff on them, whatever.
Yep.
All right, we're running off the rail, and I know Tracy.
So do we want to have one question?
Go ahead. Go for it.
Yes. So the question, Stephen Knipe, I guess I say that right.
Steve Knight. He was our parts guy at Sabco.
He says, please have Andy talk about his grandfather's history at Indianapolis. Many do not know how many 500s he ran.
The record, and Donald Davidson says 13 Indy 500s, but he was a backup driver in one more. So he actually ran 14 times at Indy. Of the 14, he led 7 of them. He started running Indy in the late 20s, early 30s. They had 2 world wars in there, so the track was shut down for a while. So he ran all the way into the 40s because of the world wars. But he ran consecutive 13 times, and I think the 14th one was consecutive as well. In 1926, he started in the middle of the front row, so he would have been second fastest. Led quite a few laps there, and that car broke. In those days, in the 20s and 30s, reliability was out of the question. So they had everything failed. They had bearings failure, they had driveline failures, they had all kinds of problems. So just to be able to survive it. So the fast guys weren't always the ones that won it. The ones that survived and carried on and took care of their cars usually had better results in the end of it. Mm-hmm. And he always joked around and said there were old race drivers and there were bold race drivers, but there are no old, bold race drivers because those cars had no safety to them at all. In his time frame, he was one of the few drivers that when he started, they ran hard rubber tires. The motorcycles were on hard rubber. There was no air. There was no inner tube inside them. The tire was a molded square edge hard rubber tire. And they started racing the cars on those. And then Firestone came along with their pneumatic tires, or balloon tires, what they called them, with air inside them. And they were inner tubes inside the tires. But he was one of the drivers that developed those. So they were testing Firestone tires at Indy and had in the days where you had a driver and a riding mechanic both in the car. So you had a passenger. And that passenger had, for lack of better terms, a ping pong paddle. And he would touch it on the right rear tire, and he could feel if it was out of round. He could feel if it had got a knot on it. Mm-hmm. He could rub around the tire and know. And then he could watch the right front, and the driver could see both left sides, but the way the bodies were built, you couldn't always see the right sides. So riding mechanic motioned to him. They came in. Firestone engineers looked at it, checked everything over, sent them back out, said you were okay. 2 laps later, the right rear tire blew going into turn 1, and they crashed. Riding mechanic got thrown out. He hit a tree or a post outside, and his accident was fatal. He didn't survive it. My grandpa, we have pictures of him looked like a Bugs Bunny cartoon.
the gauze was wrapped around his head, all around up to, and then around this way. And they had this apparatus down his leg where it was broken. It ripped part of his ear off. They sewed it back on. Just beat him up pretty good. Broke his arm, broke his leg. And in those days, it's not like they have the medical treatments they have now. So they just kind of stretch you back out and everything will heal. When my grandmother was in the hospital in labor with my dad. My grandpa went to a guy's house in North Hollywood, California, to start his midget for him because they were having some problems with it. And they were midgets on gasoline back then, and they had a fuel line issue. And my grandpa got burned up badly. So he was in a hospital across town, and they went in and told my grandmother that he wasn't going to survive because he had near fatal burns, and she's in giving birth to my dad. And it really kind of made for a mess of things there.
Sure.
Grandpa survived. Even his hands were burned. His face was burned. So even when I was growing up, I remember him with the wrinkled up fingers and the burns on his hands and the fingernails that were looked like Ruffles potato chips because they were all waved up because everything melted so badly. And he was always in hand lotion because the burns back then, they didn't have anything to put on them or anything else. So all that skin gets tight. And in the wintertime in Indiana, it would crack. And no, I say Indiana. He was from Texas originally, moved to California, and he started his racing in California. But then when our whole family moved from California to Indiana, a few years later, they sold their air conditioning business in Hollywood and moved to Indiana, and they bought a car wash. And he and my grandmother lived at the car wash, and he worked that. So he had a really cool, storied career. He drove Duesenbergs. He drove Henry Miller cars. He was a factory driver for Duesenberg. They went to Bonneville and set land speed records in Ab Jenkins' Duesenberg land speed car. He drove anything and everything. And he promoted early NASCAR races with Big Bill France.
Oh, okay.
So Arlington Downs, Texas was the track that he took care of. And he and Big Bill France, the originator, were good friends, which is kind of funny because now, after working in the NASCAR world for a while and saying a few derogatory things about them, or maybe a lot of derogatory things about the way they're doing things now, I don't think they'd let me come back. Matter of fact, I've been told they won't let me come back. But it's funny the two of them were friends way back when.
So that kind of, we were down at in Daytona, Orlando Beach, and we were looking at some of the cars and some of the pictures of the cars your grandfather drove in the 30s.
It's Ormond Beach, isn't it?
Is that what I said?
Ormond. You said Orlando Beach.
Oh, that too. Ormond Beach.
They both have beach. Well, Orlando doesn't really have beach. Yeah, but go ahead.
I don't know where Orlando came from.
Yeah.
I was thinking about Tony Orlando, I guess, or something.
There you go.
But yeah, Ormond Beach down there. And yeah, it says right here on the CCs that I said Orlando. Hey, so we do have some comments from our friends. And Greg Gould says, good evening, David. Dave Chenette.
Oh, yeah.
He says, hey, buddy, what's up, Big A?
I see Shanette almost daily going to lunch. As I'm coming back, he's going out. And we sometimes flip each other off, sometimes wave, sometimes swerve at each other. All those normal things that us racers do.
Whatever you feel like doing.
Exactly.
I always try to remember who his, and I know I bring this up every time when we talk about Dave Chenette. We talked about it last week, I believe it was, the actor that he looked like back in the day.
Which one? Who do you think it was? You don't remember
Kathy
either.
Chenette's the one that always reminds me of what it was.
Yep.
I'll remember it when I'm not thinking about it.
Exactly how that works.
He says, stay off the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where was he when I was driving? I needed that advice back then.
Yeah, there you go. Eric Yost, Biggin.
Biggin.
Yeah, Biggin's Customs.
Yes, Biggin does all the cool stuff. My kids think he's awesome because he builds big turbochargers on everything and makes stuff go fast.
Yes, isn't that
and
cool?
He's fun.
His turbocharger, they're so big that they don't fit under the hood.
Exactly. Exactly.
They're out in the front of the car and everything. It's crazy, but it's good stuff.
And he and Lyle Barnett have all kinds of fun with those drag things, and they built that beer money car, and they just went and put it on them, and now Lyle has a Pro Mod ride with Modern, and he won 2 of them this year.
Oh, yeah.
So it's really cool because Lyle was burned up and hurt and injured and came back with Biggin and then got to be like super popular with all the racers around here.
Good deal.
And another really good guy.
Yeah. That's like his car. He takes that Camaro out there, and it looks like is it a sleeper you call it maybe?
Oh, yeah.
And then he just smokes them.
Yes.
He says, hey, Big A and Hambone, good dudes. Thank you. Appreciate that. And so Scott Glasscox is tuned in.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I have not seen Glasscox since probably shortly after our Sabco days. But Roger used to keep track of him all the time. Scott is cool.
Yeah, he is cool.
I don't think he ever lost a party.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, I know. I was going to ask if he ties his shoes now or not, or boots. Remember, he used to come out all the time with those.
Flop,
But he was comfortable.
Yes.
That's for sure.
No doubt. We had a guy at Hendrick with us, Danny Robinson. Everybody called him Foot.
Oh yeah.
Because he lived right next to one of the race teams he worked for, and he'd come in barefoot every day, carrying his shoes and his socks, because he's running behind enough that it didn't need to take time to put those on before he got to the shop. He could do them when he got in.
Yeah, that sounds about like me too, especially toward the end of my NASCAR career. Hey, so I'm going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back to Racing Roots with Hamm and Andy Stapp in with us this evening. Y'all stay tuned.
At Banner Drug, we are proud to say we have been caring.
And we're back to Racing Roots with Hamm right here on 550 AM, 92.9 FM. Where we got Andy Stapp in with us this evening. I don't know the best way to say your, let's see, like I had Don Miller in last week, and I said former, president of Penske Racing South.
Yeah. God, it'd be nice to have that kind of title, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And he was part owner at one time, too.
Yes.
I didn't realize that until after. So kind of a big deal. But you're a big deal, too. I'm not saying.
No. I'm small cheese.
You're not.
Yeah, I'm not important at all, but we just get to have fun and get to go racing all the time. So it's that's more important than anything else, I guess.
It is. That's what the older you get, the more you realize that the most important things in life are mostly family and spending time with your kids. When you have your kids, spend time with them. If you're always gone, that's not necessarily a good thing, because then they grow up being all confused. Like, where was my parents? Where are they at?
Exactly.
Yeah.
My dad was that way with my sister and I both. She played softball in different sports, and we raced. And I don't know that he missed anything. There were times we were late going to the track because Susanna had a softball game. We got done with that and jumped in the truck, and away we went.
Yeah. And
Dad had a trucking company the whole time that I was racing, and I tried my damnedest to make that a non-profit organization.
Yeah.
And I got very close. I think I broke him a few different times with all the stuff I crashed and tore up.
Sure.
But, we were, and then occasionally you'd have the things where the trucks would go have problems, and we'd have to work on those things before we left to go to the track.
Right. Yeah. So a lot of family time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And after this comment, I'm going to mention something about family. But Richard Bostic says, tell Andy I said he's a good man.
I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
There is a dude that has work ethic.
Yes.
He'd drive the truck. He'd come home. He'd unload the cars. He'd come in the next morning. Everything is off the truck, put away, and the cars are on jack stands in the shop. It's like, yep, Bostic's a truck driver.
Yeah.
And everything else. I have a picture somewhere of him when we did the Bell South car at Sapco. And he had his Bell South fire suit on and his helmet with all the stripes on it. And he looked like one of the Power Rangers sitting up there with all this stuff on. And, man, Bostic is one of those neat guys. I'm honored to have had a chance to work with him and know him, too.
Man, same here. He always has a joke. He's great with the jokes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We were lucky. We worked with some.
Oh, my gosh.
I tried to catch him at PRI show. Jerry Wendell was up there. Steve Knipe was there. And I tried to catch the cringe Keith Simmons.
He was there, too?
He was there. And I didn't find him. But, man, Let me tell you something, Bart. You're going to do it legendary. They'll never forget you.
That's it.
Keith Simmons was, words to live by right there.
Yeah. I should have sent some of my cards for the show with you, but I didn't know you were going. Maybe I should go next year.
What we do every year is we pile a bunch of people in a truck. And then we call my mom and tell her, hey, how many guest rooms do you have open? Because I brought a bunch with me. Yeah. And we crash out at Mom's house because she's got a big place and she doesn't mind us too much, even with the COVID thing. Yeah. So we all go up and we have a blast between my sisters and Mom's. We can fit some bodies in, get some places to sleep, and then catch dinner every night of the show. And we'll go off and run the go-karts at Sarah Fisher's indoor track right downtown Speedway, or like Bill Throckmorton, has Grant King's old IndyCar shop. And we went there, and it's the shop where Grant built sprint cars, Indy cars, everything, and it's all back to the way it was originally, and the old cars are in there. And just every time you go up there, Rick Duman has a place where he restores the old Indy cars as well. So go by and see those guys. And then Tom Patsis at Cold Hard Art, he makes all the trophies and all those cool things. Yeah. We go by and visit with him. So every time we go to Indy, it's an epic trip.
I'd like to meet him sometime. I see him on Instagram.
Yes.
Cold Hard Art.
When you meet him, he'll fit right in the group with everybody else. He's just as screwed up as we are. Yeah. His wife, Amanda, puts up with him, but he is a blast. And we go up there, and he's wide open. And he threatens that if he's going to quit doing that, he's going to come down here and either work for us at Detroit Speed, or he wants to – I'm trying to think who else it was, but there was somebody else down here that he wants to come play with. But I told him, I said, keep doing what you're doing. You might make it one day. You might make enough money to survive.
I forgot you were at Detroit Speed. I remember now because Tracy had applied there at one point.
I did.
Really?
A couple years ago, I guess.
Did we screw up and not hire you?
You didn't even contact me back.
Not to bring that up.
It's not my department, but
that's when I was in HR.
Yeah. I'll be disappointed in our departments that do that, because you would have been all right there.
I think so.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, then again, they hired me.
Well, hey, I'm a misfit as well.
So their standards weren't that high in the first place.
Yes.
So David, are you telling people to turn over to YouTube?
Not yet, but if you'd like to, you can go over to YouTube, because if you're streaming on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, go to DHammiam, and Bryson put the link on there too, so that should go out to everyone if you want to. I mean, if you want to see Andy up close, you want to see Tracy in here, or you can see the view from that camera right there, which is okay too. But it's whatever you want to do. And the problem is too, some of the comments we don't get whenever they're on Facebook. I'll go back later and I'll read them. But I use this program called StreamYard, and that streams it out to all the different things. But for some reason, I don't get all the comments.
And I only see
But on YouTube, we definitely see all of them.
You probably get more comments when you have better guests.
Oh, no.
If you get the right guests in here, I'm sure you'll get a whole bunch of really cool comments from all on those guys, because they have a following.
No, we're getting some good comments and questions. We are, right? And so if you do have a question, put a big Q in front of it so we can spot it really quick, because sometimes they'll just talk back and forth between each other, which is good. We were talking about family. Well, first of all, is there any questions?
Not yet.
Okay. Is there any questions over there, young Bryson? And I'll put the camera on here in a minute, and you can show your hair if you'd like. Okay. So if you'd like to see his hair, you have to go over to YouTube. But
he's going to start charging to see his hair.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, no, there you go. But go ahead and say it again.
I said, yeah, we'll do that.
All right. It sounds
I'll
good.
figure that out.
And another thing I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to show a little slideshow, which is not the greatest for radio, but the stories that you're going to be telling through the slideshow will be just fine.
Perfect.
Because we've got all these pictures that I got loaded in to tell a story. But we were talking about family, and it got me thinking about the Bickford family, and Jeff Gordon.
Yes.
And that was his stepdad.
John Bickford. He owned Mobility Product and Design out in California, and they built a bunch of race car parts, sprint car parts. Their main business was building wheelchair and handicap accessible vans and different things for the handicap industry, but and those with different disabilities. But Jeff got into racing, so they started building a lot of race car components. And when they moved from California, they landed in Pittsburgh. We were in Brownsburg, so Pittsburgh is just one town about 5 miles west of where we were. And they bought a house there. And because we had a speed shop, we had things going on. And as they got involved and they got to doing the Bob East midgets, those were built in our shop. So John and Jeff were in all the time. And we ran around quite a bit together. I told a story
haven't told this one a whole lot in public, but I ran it by John the other day. So here you'll get the first one on this one. My closer friends know this, but I was at the shop one night late working on my own race cars, left out of there going home 2 o'clock in the morning, something like that. And I go by the local police station and I see a whole bunch of sprint car T-shirts going in. Like, oh, son of a gun, they got my buddies. They got some more boys from the backside. You couldn't tell exactly who they were, but so I stopped and went back, and we always had 4-door dually trucks, so it was easy to load up all your buddies and get them home. So I went back in, and they had caught Rich Bubeck, Todd Osborne, Jeff Gordon Kid, and a few others that were, I think Rich was the only one of age to have been able to participate in the alcohol that the rest of them had been playing in. So
what you're saying is Jeff Gordon's an outlaw.
Yes, he grew up as an outlaw racing outlaw cars with us, and yes, he is still an outlaw. No, he's cleaned up, and it's a whole different image for him now. Yeah. But instead of having those guys all get in trouble, we had a really good rapport with our local police station, and quite a few of the officers went racing with me anyway. Yeah. So I was able to get those guys sprung before they got in any trouble and took them home. Yeah. And they impounded Bubeck's truck for a little while, but we also had a way into the impound yard, and we got it free and got him out. And then Rich was out of town going off racing in Knoxville the next day. All right. And saved her skin. So I was telling John about that the other day, and John says, yeah, statute of limitations is up on that now, but I have a few more stories like that too that I'm aware of. So
that's good, man.
Jeff may not be appreciative of me telling these kind of cool stories on him, but we were all kids and we all had fun.
That's good. That's the first time I ever heard that story.
There are a few around me that get to hear it. Guys in the shop have caught it, once or twice. But we try not to. The kid's got a squeaky clean reputation. We can't mess him up.
Right? Yeah.
He's still a kid. He started this stuff at 14, so you got to consider him still a kid, even though he's old now and retired.
Still seem that way kind of to me, even though we're the same age, pretty close. I believe I'm 50. He's probably 49. I don't something like that.
I think really, close.
But I, he was always. Yeah, the squeaky clean image of Jeff Gordon. And I think, too, what you're saying is in a roundabout way, you kind of led him into the straight path of going into a good career, a good straight line career, where he could go in NASCAR and start winning races and win championships.
His stepdad, John Pickford, you were talking about.
Yes.
Pickford was a very good businessman, very smart, still one of the smartest guys I know. Enjoyable to talk to. He just restored his 56 Nomad wagon, and we got the air conditioner, got him a vintage air system for it from one of our suppliers, and then went over and charged the AC on it and just had a blast. Every time I go see John, you leave there and you go, man, I wish I could do this with him more often. The guy's he's just super cool. And then I see Jeff different places. So I'm at Chili Bowl a couple of years ago, and I see him at Charlotte, and he'll stop by and say hi to us. And of all the fun things we did and all the nights we raced, the first sprint car race I ever won, he ran second at Lawrenceburg, Indiana. And we just stopped by there on the way home from PRI to show one of the, Dylan Latour went up there with us, so showing him the track as well. And my oldest son, Sam, went along, so he's about sick and tired of all this stuff. Sure. He's just tired of the stories, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. But I'm sure he's eating it up. But so you can also, who else can say that they beat Jeff Gordon in a sprint car? Right, pretty much. Was it a sprint car?
It was a sprint car.
Okay, yeah.
The thing is, I beat him. Well, we ran a bunch of races together. We run 4 or 5 nights a week against each other. John Andretti ran with us. Jack Hewitt was just the king of what we were doing at the time, and Steve Butler and all the guys we raced with. But Andy Hillenberg, the Indiana Andy Hillenberg, who came down here and had Fast Tracks driving school. He raced with us every week. We ran around. It's kind of cool, the guys that were in those days, none of us were NASCAR stars. They weren't the guys they've developed into now. We were just like your guys when we were racing go-karts in the backyard. We're just a bunch of guys that had sprint cars and raced. We ran Thursday Night Thunder before we realized exactly what Thursday Night Thunder was going to do for us. Danny Laycock and the gang that put that whole thing together and did all the work to make that TV show what it was. Dave Despain was the announcer. I mean, it was just, we had the best of everything going and didn't even realize how cool it was, and everybody was having fun. Yeah. That's one of the things I think we're missing right now in big-time professional racing. We're missing the fun.
And the roots, kind of like racing roots. Now you're learning about them right here. Even though I spell it a little bit different, but that's okay. Rick Breakfield's tuned in as well.
Old Buffy Brakefield.
Yeah.
So Brian Henry says, "Hello, Big A."
Yeah, Brian Henry.
Hambone and Tracy.
He had a birthday last week. Happy
Yeah,
birthday.
Brian and Tracy, what a cool family they are as well.
Kim?
Worked with Brian a couple different places. He was with us at DEI also. And Brian, yep, another one, you work for teams, you work with all these guys. It's like being in the Army with them. You have your group that you're with. When you relocate to the next race team, you kind of lose track of these guys because you have a whole new group of guys that you're running around with all the time, and time gets taken up. But, man, a bunch of cool memories. But Brian was always, he's a great guy. I mean, always smiling, always happy. We always had, great times as well.
Yeah, for sure. I was saying before, I could have a show for the next probably 5 years and have it every week with the people I've worked with, for over the 25 years that I was in. And I mean, a lot of those were from Sabco because we were like the training ground. It seemed like.
Yep,
Yeah,
Rick
always heard
Brakefield ran the body shop there, old Buffy Brakefield.
Yeah.
He and Len Sherrill just terrorized everybody else around there. Those guys went at each other all the time too and had fun.
Yeah.
And then remember TL Styles.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
I mean, that guy just kept everything low and calm, easy. TL was great. I miss him all the time too.
I got a picture of him sitting there with Steve Knight and in their office there. I got some pictures I found from the back in the day at Sabco.
I saw one you put on our thing with all of us on the wall for, I think I was Rockingham Pit Screw competition.
Right. I do have a lot. I think I'll have all those on Facebook, but the ones that I found of the old Sabco shop, I don't have those on Facebook.
You need to do that so I can find them.
Yeah. What I'm going to do is once I get my website where I want it, I'm going to go ahead and put those on there. My website's it's DHammiam.com. It's not just about me. It's about the history of racing is what I like to look at it like,
And of everything we did.
Yeah.
Remember how much we picked on poor old Jim Sutton too.
Oh yeah.
Sutton, he caught static from all of us.
Even
he
Felix
deserved all of it, but he caught static from all of us.
Even Felix Abadas, whenever we, 96 when we were qualifying, I believe it was qualifying for the All-Star race. And it was either that or pit crew competition. I think it was All-Star race. And Felix would always tell him, "You cost me $40,000" because he was a little bit slow on the rear. And so I'm glad I wasn't the one he said that to, though. There was times where some of the tire changers were a little bit like they didn't hit all the lug nuts or something, and I dropped the jack, and eventually they would kind of get let go, and I was like, man, I'm glad he's had a little bit more trust in me, but it just meant they were a little bit slow, but still, the team thing about it. I'm just joking about that, but anyway.
Do you remember when we ran Brickyard with Kyle Petty?
Yeah.
He ran over the staple, blew a front tire,
Oh, yes.
knocked down the outside wall, came in, knocked down the inside wall.
Yeah.
They get to him. Do you know this story?
I don't think so.
Oh, Jamie Freeze is tuned in as well.
Oh, man. I haven't seen Freeze forever. He used to be the mayor of Taylorsville.
He hangs out up here now in Statesville a lot of times. I'll just see him standing over there in the corner over at Red Buffalo or whatever.
I'll have to start hanging out in Statesville, see if I can find Freeze.
Yeah. Is this Kyle's story you're going to tell? Mm-hmm. Okay. Or Sterling's?
No, this one's Kyle's.
I got you.
Are we okay to tell it's Kyle's?
Yeah, man, go for it.
They get to Kyle, they get him out of the car, get him on a stretcher. He's hurting. The thing hit the wall, throttled up, hit the inside wall. It's beat up both corners. It looks like a snowplow with a big V in the front of it. Mm-hmm. They go to pick him up to put him in the ambulance, and he starts screaming. They put him back down. I mean, he says, I don't know where the pain comes from, but he says, it hurts bad. They go to pick me up, and it's hurting like terrible. So they set him down. They look everything over, and they go second time to pick him up, put him in the ambulance. He starts screaming again. Now it's trying to pull him off the stretcher. The big guy at the head end of the stretcher was standing on his ponytail.
Oh, yeah.
So when they went to pick him up, it was pulling his ponytail, and Kyle's
hair.
freaking out. So we crashed out early.
I was talking to Sterling one day, and he was telling me that story.
Yep.
Yeah, so
It was cool.
we crashed out early.
We crashed out early, and you and Mike Atwell went over to the
Museum.
You still had our race day uniforms on
That's right.
because you went over to check out the museum,
Yeah.
and you guys got over and you didn't have any money with you
Right.
because everything's in the trailer.
I did.
So they come back and tell me about it later. It's like, man, they were nice. They let us in. They let us go walk through the museum, and it's so cool. All the neat stuff in there. They killed an hour or so in there.
Yeah.
We get back home. I told both of them in the shop, I said, man, Felix is looking for you guys. Why is Felix looking for He's mad. the Indianapolis Motor Speedway sent him a bill and told him he needs to pay his people so they can afford to go in and check out the museum up there. But they sent him an invoice, and he wants to know why he has to pay for his employees to go to the museum. These two guys were spun out. They were sure I was serious, and they learned later on not to ever take me seriously on anything. Yeah. But, yeah, we had fun back then.
Well, you know how I got in the museum, right? I had to give the shirt off of my back to get in. Because I had my red race day shirt. We had two of them. Yep. So I was like, I can sacrifice this one red shirt because I wanted a T-shirt. And the lady that was working there, her name was Donna, I believe it was. She had the shirt on that I wanted. And I was like, that's probably my size. And so anyway, she was like, well, I'd like to have the shirt you got on. So we just did it right there. No, I'm kidding. We didn't.
Yeah, I was going to say.
We swapped out because I had a bag with clothes in it, whatever. I think I actually had it in my bag. Yeah, I did because I was wearing my pit road shirt because I didn't even take the time to change. I was like, hey, let's go over. Anyway, so I just pulled that red shirt out, gave it to her. So she took it in the dressing room or whatever and swapped out and brought me a T-shirt.
He's been talking ladies out of their shirts ever since.
That's it. It happens that way sometimes.
There you go.
Very nice, though. And then the next year when we went back, she went over and took a picture of me and Mike standing there and in the pit. Because you know how they had the fence behind the pits there.
Yes.
You could walk back there.
Yep.
And took a picture of us and sent it to me. So that was good.
That's really – the people there at the Speedway have always been exceptional. They've always had really – when the George family owned it, they had great people working there. It was all about service. Now, with Mr. Penske owning it, they've taken that to like 20 levels above. Mr. Penske won't do anything wrong. Everything he does is absolutely first class, top notch. So they will, I feel certain from here on out, they will have great people in there taking care, and they just have the right attitude and they're there for the right thing. Yeah. And even like all the yellow shirts that patrol the garage area, those guys have a job to do, but they're really all cool guys. And always had a good history with them. And like I say, they're firm about what they do, but they're right in what they do, and they do it well.
Yeah.
Great group of people up there.
Have you been involved with the museum up there at all?
When we were younger, when our shop was in Brownsburg, just 15 minutes from Speedway where the museum is, I used to do some restoration work for some of the cars that were in the basement. And Joey Cloutier used to take care of that. So I used to get down in the basement all the time. All the cars that are on the floor are really cool, but the ones in the basement that are in process and all the extra overflow cars are in the basement. The real tour is down below. The one everybody gets to see up above is super cool, but the really neat tour is down below where everything's going on. Okay. Dad has a car he built for A.J. Foyt in 1974. A.J. ran it in 74. Dad built it in 73, going into 74 with George Snyder. And that car now permanently lives at the Speedway Museum. So Dad has a sprint car in there.
That's cool.
And he has one at the Smithsonian. He's got one in the Smithsonian Institute also.
Yeah.
And a quick fun story. My dad's cardiologist went to Washington, D.C. with his son. They go walking through the Smithsonian, and he's looking at these race cars. And he walks by, and this one has a plaque on it. And it says, Steve Stapp built it and this and that. And he's freaking out, looking and grabbing his son. He says, look at this. That's my patient. That's my patient. Oh. And his son's like, Dad, that's a race car. No. This guy right here, he built that. He's a patient of mine. So they come home. Next time Dad's in the office, he says, man, that was just so cool to walk through the Smithsonian Institute. He says, most people have to be dead to get something in there. Dad says, if you keep doing your job right, I won't be dead for a while.
Yeah. That's
Dad's
good.
got a point.
I was going to say, Tracy's dad had a car. Well, he took it to Indy and sold it. He went to Indy last year or year before.
I really don't
Indianapolis
recall.
500. Okay. He went with your brother. Pretty sure Dan, and they went.
Dan took him, I think, for his birthday or for Christmas.
Yeah, his birthday's in, January, so yeah.
He was born on
January
Elvis's birthday.
Hey, that's cool. And he is all right on par with Elvis. Your dad can build some of the neatest. Kenny's always just been one of those guys everybody's known of because he can build a GT40. He can build a Cobra. He can build whatever. And we were talking earlier before this started, that car I'm talking about that Dad built for Foyt, Sleeveless Bob and your dad went up and took pictures of it at the museum and came back, and your dad replicated that car.
Off of a picture.
Off of pictures.
Just like
and
the GT40s.
Sleeveless was calling me trying to find one of those cars and trying to find parts and pieces. I said, man, I don't know where many of them are.
Right.
Dad built, we don't even know how many he built. He never numbered. never numbered them or anything. So I don't know how many he built. I don't know that there are many out there. So they came home, and Sleeveless wanted one so badly that Kenny built him one. And it's amazing how close everything is on it and how neat that car is. So I get to do a little bit of work with him, and I have an engine that we're taking care of so Sleeveless can have an engine and be able to go run his car and play with it.
Nice.
And we'll go with him when he does that, because when somebody's got to needle him up, it's been a long time since he drove sprint cars, so we got to make him faster so he'll get in trouble.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
there you go. All right, so
Sleeveless used to come at Thanksgiving and
he did.
holidays at the house.
Another really cool guy that's fun to be around. He's a mess. I still have him paint stuff for us with our own race cars and everything, equipment and everything else. I still have him paint, and I recommend guys to him all the time.
He did the Einstein on the blue car.
Yeah.
Now, he did work for Bill Ryan as well, right? Some painting for him, I think.
I'm not sure about that.
Don't know for sure either, but I think so. He's worked for everybody. Now he does a lot of drag cars.
Okay.
And he does the airbrush. I was over a while back, and he was doing a grill on a funny car, alcohol funny car, and he's doing the Mustang emblem and everything in the grill. And I'm sitting back just watching him, just in awe, because it starts out, and then he starts putting the blues and the browns and the colors in it, and when it's done, it looks like it's a chrome-plated grill, and it was all on fiberglass. But yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, Jim Smith says, happy Monday, everyone. Same to you. Dave Nixon up in New York, he's listening and says, very interesting, thanks. So when we come back from break, we're going to get into some of the comments, and we're going to also ask Bryson over here for any comments that we have on Facebook, and Tracy for any on YouTube. So if you have them, throw them at us now, but we're going to take our last break, and then we'll have another 35 minutes or so left in the show. So y'all just stay tuned, and we'll be right back to Racing Roots with Hamm.
Many of us become complacent in the lives we lead.
Roots with Hamm right here on 550 AM, 92.9 FM, and DHammiam on YouTube, as well as Facebook and Racing Roots with Hamm page on Facebook. And the group, while you're there, hit that thumbs up and hit the like button on YouTube as well, if you would, please, to let YouTube know that it's good stuff and they can send it out to a few more people. Well, we got Andy Stapp in with us.
So you're getting heck for talking about the shirt issue.
The shirt issue?
The shirt issue. You're getting heck. You're in trouble, they're saying.
I'm getting looks from you is what I'm getting.
No, the funny thing is well, it's like I said in here, I've heard that story about a half a dozen times, and each time it changes a little.
I have to, okay, so here's what I have to do. I have
Never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
He doesn't.
Well, yeah, you got that right. I was sweating a little bit when Andy started telling his side of the story. I thought he was going to tell it, but yeah. I'm looking at, all right, it depends on if my wife's around or not. I'm just going to be honest with you.
I know.
I'm looking over at her, and then and of course I have to accentuate it a little bit.
Absolutely.
Like we just changed shirts right there, but whatever. We didn't. We went into separate rooms. She gave me the T-shirt. Nothing to it. Nothing at all.
She's not really jealous, is she?
I'm protective.
Yeah. And I mean, that's
There's a difference.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm protective, not
statute
jealous.
of
Really
limitations.
think somebody else wants him?
No.
That's not the question in mind.
Oh,
You
whoa,
protect your
whoa.
assets, right?
Oh, okay. Here we go. So, hey. So speaking of the race, the car that was wrecked,
Change that subject quick.
I got the valve covers off of that car. I got both of them.
Oh,
You know, there's a right and a left because it's a V8, which I was joking with you. You know that.
You can always
I got
tell
both.
when I get under David's skin, he starts turning red.
Yeah, I do. And then when I think about I'm turning red, then I turn more red. Then I start sweating.
And then I
It's like
start
whatever.
laughing.
Yep.
Gee,
It's funny to watch him
I'm glad to
sweating.
come along and be able to cause trouble. I do this everywhere. This is great.
Man, I tell you what, it just brings back memories because it seemed like it followed you a lot of times. When I was around, I would get embarrassed quite a bit, it seemed.
Oh, yeah. That was the most fun. Anything we could do to embarrass you.
Yeah, of course.
Yes. And I have one of those that embarrassed you very well, but I cannot even go there right now because this is PG radio and we can't touch on that.
Yes.
Yes.
Talk about when this person to my right isn't around. She's not around, right?
No, it's not even that.
Okay, good.
It's all good. It's just the punchline just isn't appropriate for our audience.
I'm sure. Okay, I got you.
This is
Off
after
air.
the show
Yeah.
conversation.
Exactly.
There you go.
Exactly.
Yeah, and Brian Henry's over on the Facebook. Okay, Tracy, go with the
Yes.
ladies first. Is there any questions or
Yes,
comments?
there is questions and comments. Like I
Tracy
said, they're
Cam
giving
on.
you heck for the shirt situation.
Of course.
And they said you're sleeping on the couch.
Yeah, well, I've
No,
done that
he's
a
all
couple
right.
times.
He's all right. But Dickie says, do you have a favorite track, and why is it your favorite?
Is that for David or for me?
That's for you.
Growing up racing, I'm a sprint car guy. I'm sorry, I got to just clarify.
Yeah.
I'm an open wheel tires out there. If you can't walk up to it, sit down on any of the tires and get your butt dirty, I don't consider it to be a full-on race car. So that's kind of my parameter in my world.
Yeah.
Growing up, we raced. Lawrenceburg was one of my favorites, Lawrenceburg, Indiana. But we raced Eldora Speedway when Earl Baldus owned it. And Eldora became my absolute favorite place to race. And then later on, a few years later, we got to go to Winchester for the first time. High banked, half-mile oval that when I went out to qualify, pushed off, rode in warm-up lap, 2 qualifying laps, cool-down lap, came back in, so rolled up into the pit area, fogged a visor. I get back to the trailer, back to our pits, Paul, and first time I'd ever run Winchester, and we qualified in the top 6, top 5. We were in the hunt. And at the time, I think I was like third quick rolling back in, and Dad comes over, and I'm breathing hard underneath the visor's fogged up and everything else. He says, "Oh, thrilled yourself a little bit, did you?" I said, "No, I really think I forgot to breathe for all 4 laps." And, the warm-up lap, both qualifying laps, cool-down lap, I forgot to breathe till I came back in here. That place was that thrilling. So Terry Baldus was Earl's son. He was the announcer at Eldora. We won one of the qualifier nights. We're all sitting up on the stage. He asked me that same question. I said, "Terry, I'm here at Eldora. I got to tell you, this is my favorite racetrack. But, Dad, let me go run Winchester." Man, I'm going to tell you what, that place is so thrilling. I have two favorite tracks, one pavement, one dirt. But any place we got to go and run that I remembered it and didn't leave in an ambulance was still one of my favorite tracks we went to.
Right.
And that narrows it right down.
There you go.
Yeah.
I had a loss for words for a second there.
I'm not saying I crashed a lot, but I was a crash test dummy for Simpson's helmets.
Yeah,
And
you
every
go.
time I broke one, Bill gave me a new one and said, "Yeah, there you go, kid. Go do it again."
There you go. At least we got you protected.
That's good stuff. They already know, my stuff. We talk about my favorite tracks or whatever. What was the next question?
I didn't see a next question.
Okay.
I want to know what
one.
your favorite track is.
Oh,
Because you grew up stock car world.
yeah, I did, and that was going to be something I was going to talk about was some of these pictures that you have, and I actually just put them on there so people can see them while we're talking.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and then we'll go back and talk about them individually. But whenever we were the open wheel, one of the pictures of your grandfather has him with like just maybe goggles or glasses on, but no
Yes.
helmet or anything,
He ran in the leather helmet days,
Yeah.
and they didn't have goggles for racing, but the aviators from World War I
Oh yeah,
had goggles because you're sitting in an open cockpit behind a propeller that's throwing everything back. So those guys had goggles, and that's what the early race drivers used was the aviator goggles. And you have to think about something. There weren't that many aviators, so it's kind of hard to get a hold of those and have them. Nowadays, we have a pretty good Air Force.
Yeah.
Back then, you had a few of them, and they had reliability problems like everything else. They lost as many as they had.
Yeah.
But so they were building them quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a little bit different situation back then.
And you didn't have Amazon.
No Amazon to deliver that baby to you today and put it in the kitchen on the counter and tell you where it is.
That's it. So as far as my favorite tracks, I mean, I had different ones for different reasons. Like Arizona, I liked Phoenix.
Yeah.
It was beautiful, just being there in the track, looking around in the desert, and just
I've been trying to get you to go take me.
And I love that town. It's just all around there. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Gosh, see, I always
you need to take Tracy to Phoenix.
Stuff.
Place is great.
I've got timeshare, so he doesn't even have to pay for the room.
Exactly. The Mexican food there is stellar. I mean, everything out there is neat. And on your way in, don't just fly into Phoenix. You got to leave here. You got to drive out.
To Scottsdale.
Because you have to see everything. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Scottsdale at the top, then dropping down.
Flagstaff.
Flagstaff is one of my favorite. I'm a fat guy. I like food. I think I might have mentioned that once or twice. Yeah. And Flagstaff, every time I go there, I pick a different restaurant, and I've never been let down. Okay. But I park. Usually I'm out there with a truck and a trailer, going PRI or a SEMA show or something, going through with this race truck haulers. And we stop and have something to eat in Flagstaff and just walk into, it's like a bunch of little bars here and there. You'll never go wrong in that place. Neat town, neat stuff. I could move there. They still have all 4 seasons. And I kind of need a little bit of snow. Not a lot, a little snow here and there. Makes it right. At Christmas time, it needs to be a little white on the ground. But,
I'm good.
Yeah. So, and you can go up to the mountains.
Exactly.
You can go up to Pikes Peak over there. It's pretty up there.
And while you're doing it, have him take you up to Grand Canyon and go across the reservoir there, which you can still drive across. We used to be able to go across it in trucks, and you can't do that anymore.
So Hoover Dam?
Yep.
Hoover Dam's in.
Hoover Dam.
Yeah. And then there's, where was the Roosevelt something? I got a little bit sidetracked here.
Sorry.
Yeah. All right.
So the next question is.
Next question.
Scott Felthausen says, if Mr. Sapp never got involved in racing, what line of work would he be doing for a quote-unquote real job?
That's a great question. I'm glad I never had to worry about that. It's going to sound really spoiled. I have never had a real job. Every job I've ever had, what I do right now with Detroit Speed, my friend Kyle Tucker started the business. We've been friends since we were kids. When I got paroled from Ganassi's team 9 years ago now, and I considered it paroled. They came through and they didn't want me to play there any longer. So I called my wife and told her we were going to go celebrate and have a really good dinner. And then I had to go back and get all my stuff out of the building. But when that parole happened, it was all good. Kyle called the next day and said, hey, come up and see me. I got a list of things I need taken care of. So that was like more of the first real non-racing, but we still build hot rods and we go to tracks with them and everything. So that's basically the first thing I've done. I would be fabricating, welding something somewhere. My dad had a trucking company the whole time I was growing up. My grandpa had the car wash. I worked at those, but I was a kid doing that stuff. Dad's trucks were a necessary evil because I crashed my race car enough. I used enough money, so his stuff had to work so I could have enough budget to go racing. I have a CDL. I could drive a truck, dump truck, something like that, but that wouldn't last for very long. So I'm really kind of glad the family was into racing. And like my mom says all the time, we know so many people just from racing and all of our friends that we've dealt with for years, worked with and everything for years. Mom said a while back at my dad's wake after he passed, she says, it's a really good thing your dad wasn't a plumber because life would have been really, really boring compared to what we have now. I was like, absolutely.
True.
So I really appreciate the question, but like I say, I'm honestly just glad I never had to do that. But because I don't know that I'd make it very good at a real job.
Yeah.
I'd want to show up late and go to lunch early, and then as a racer, you can't work on Monday because you're tired from the weekend. Tuesday, I got to get my race car ready so I can come in till lunchtime, but I got to go work on my race car for the afternoon so we can go racing. And in Indiana, we'd run 5 nights a week, so you had to leave early to go to the racetrack. You couldn't race you couldn't work Wednesday, Thursday, Friday because, again, you had to race those nights and you had to wash the car, clean things up, take care of stuff. And then all weekend long you're racing somewhere. And then Monday you're too tired to get up and go to work Monday morning because you just drug your butt in from Sunday night racing. So, I'm thinking no, real jobs.
Not for you.
No, not at all.
Not for you. That sounds okay.
All right. Was there any more questions with you,
There's
Tracy?
actually a question for you, David.
Okay.
Did you get a tie cut off at Pinnacle Peaks restaurant in Phoenix?
Oh, did I get a tie cut off? I didn't. I wasn't wearing a tie.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're wearing a tie, we have problems.
Yeah.
They just don't fit on T-shirts.
They don't know. But that does sound familiar. That does sound like there's a place that does that.
Yes. And there's
Pinnacle
another one,
Peaks.
Pinnacle Peaks in Phoenix.
Phoenix.
Yes. That's the one that overlooks the town, like at nighttime. That's beautiful.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh man, that's way too close. You're
not as
going to
close
ruin
as
that
you
camera. It's never going to work again. You're going to scare these poor people that are watching.
Better
Maybe
on
so.
you than on me. I don't like it.
Yes.
I don't know.
All right. So was that the last question? No, but the answer to that question, no, I did not.
No, you did not.
I never had, there's places that have dollar bills hanging from the ceiling, and there's places that have bras hanging from the ceiling, all that
Yeah,
kind of
we've
stuff.
seen
I didn't
that.
have any of those either.
You didn't have any what? Any bras?
yeah,
Well,
of course.
I hope you didn't wear a bra.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, because you were telling him I wear makeup.
Well, yeah, you did.
But that
Oh,
was
you
another-
did wear a bra too. Come to think of it.
Have you ever been kicked out of a restaurant?
Oh,
Yes.
oh, wait a minute.
We have.
I have been, yes.
Yes,
Were you there?
we have.
Hold on, we're talking about racing stuff. Go
Oh,
ahead,
But
tell
we've
your
been kicked
story.
out-
Go ahead.
Remember the party we went to?
What party?
We weren't the rowdy ones.
Yeah.
We were asked
You
to
talking about
leave.
the Jimmy Kitchens was
No,
there
we were asked to leave.
at the Denny's?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, that was with your brother,
Mm-hmm.
the instigator. I do remember that down in Huntersville. Yeah, I'm just kidding, Dan. But yeah, I remember we were out with New Year's Eve night, right?
It was not New Year's. It was a 50th
Oh.
birthday party, wasn't it?
Okay.
It was a party of some sort.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say it was St. Patrick's Day. It was a party. It was a birthday party for April somebody.
I believe.
And we were down there, and for whatever reason, when people drink, I was not the issue. I was actually trying to get everybody to calm down. Like, come on now, just chill. We're out to have a good time. But then somebody had to run their mouth, and then the manager come over to us, and then, one thing led to another, and then we're just like, okay, well, I guess we got to leave because they're asking us to leave.
Yeah.
See, of all the meals you've had at restaurants all over the country,
Yeah.
you remember that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember another one too, but it wasn't anything I did once again. It
Mr.
was
Innocent.
it was the group in front of us, which was one of the drivers, Jimmy Kitchens, and
I have one quick one for you.
Denny's.
Do you remember coming home from Michigan? We left the track. I think we talked our bus driver into stopping for more beer because there wasn't enough. But you grabbed a cold six-pack leaving the track with a bag that you put it all on.
Yeah.
And we were flying out of Michigan airport, the real, not just the sideshow thing that we usually flew out of. We went through the main terminal.
Yeah.
And we had to go through security in the main terminal. And you were behind me, and Vicky was in front of me. And you had put what was left of the six-pack of beer and your open one on the conveyor belt to go through security. And did that just piss off those TSA people out of
No,
control?
really?
So when it went through, and it knocked your open one over and dumped it in the conveyor in the tray, and they were hot. So they get an attitude, and they grab Vicky's purse, and they start going through it. And Vicky looks at them, she's like, "It's not like I have a bomb in there." Well, this lady goes off behind the counter. She starts calling for security. "I heard bomb." She said bomb. "I have a bomb threat over here."
Yeah.
And they're going through, and I looked at this TSA lady. I said, "Bomb. You're probably not from around here. Lip balm, chapstick? Is that what you guys call it?"
There you go.
And it calmed her right down, and the rest of them came over, and I was like, "It's just lip balm." She's a Yankee.
Yeah.
She doesn't understand that normal people other places have different things they call stuff. That's all it was. She's talking lip balm.
Yeah.
And everybody chilled out. Well, they found a thing of mace and stuff in her purse. You weren't allowed to travel with that.
Yeah.
This lady set it up on the counter as she was going through all the different stuff, and she set the chapstick up there and different things. So Vicky, they gave her purse back, and she went on. "You're behind me. They're looking at you now. They're mad as I'll get out at you." I grabbed all Vicky's stuff, including her mace, put it in my pocket, walked on through security, went on. Hamm comes through. He's all mad now because his partially open beer got dumped over, so he has to get another one out of the six-pack, so that knocks those down. I think he's down to 2.
Yeah.
And they still had the plastic wrapper on them. And they were a little upset, but they finally gave him his back because we had a line of people going to our airplane, and they were getting overwhelmed. So they let us go through, and it was easier for them just to get rid of us.
It was my big brown eyes
Yes,
I
that
just
was it.
bat my eyes like that, and then they would just let us go through.
Miss Vicky and Marty Bodine.
Marty
was on
Bodine.
it. Marty was just.
Yes.
I got to see her a while back. Marty's so cool.
Yeah.
She was always a blast at the front desk there at Sabco, and I got to go by and see her even when I didn't work there anymore. And always a pleasure to see Miss Marty.
Yeah.
She's a sweetheart.
Yes.
The rest of those Bodines, especially Todd, man, I'm not sure about the rest of them, but Marty,
Yeah.
she's right on.
She always had the short skirts.
She did have those too. Yes, you noticed that.
Not that I noticed. I'm just. I remember you telling me that.
Yeah.
And
David notices. Don't let him fool you.
Tracy saw Todd Bodine the other day. He gave her his
came
autograph.
up-
I didn't get a single autograph. I didn't even think about it. But he gave her his
He
autograph.
walked up to me and said, "Here, you want this?"
Yeah.
Jeff and Brett are cool. Todd's right up there with Marty.
I
We've
guess
been
it was the
buddies.
Santa Claus that he liked.
When I first came down here to NASCAR country, they were doing the Highline Racing team. Ted Condor and Felix set up a Busch team,
Yeah.
and Bobby Hillen Jr. was driving it. And the reason I came down here, Schrader had driven my dad's cars for a while. We raced in Woodstock, Georgia, and came over to Charlotte. So I was running around with Schrader a little bit, and then I had to catch up with Hillen and have some fun with him. And we went over to the shop, and they started that team with John Munson, Jerry Kennan, Todd Bodine, Bobby Hillen was the driver. That was the first main group of guys that I met when I came to Charlotte.
Was it an 82 car, maybe?
I think it was.
Yeah.
And I'm still friends with John Munson, Jerry Kennan. Jerry was working for Nemechek for a little while right around the corner from us, so I'd see Jerry. I'd go over and borrow things from those guys. John was at school, at the NASCAR Tech School. I see John around different places, and mostly on Facebook. We pick on each other.
Hold on, you talking about John Dodson?
Nope, John Munson.
Munson, okay.
Dodson was there with us too,
Yeah.
and he's over there at the school also.
Yep.
But and Glenn Feisty is over at the school, and he used to be with Morgan McClure. My first actual NASCAR experience, Bobby Hillen Jr.'s dad had a guy named Donnie Ray Everett that took care of his racing team. And Donnie Ray and Todd Bodine and I came down, went to Bristol, and we got there, and Todd's like, I got us covered. I got Billy Wilburn to get us in. We're good. All the way down there. I got this. We get there, and remember Malcolm that used to run was it Malcolm that ran the credential trailer for NASCAR? He was an ex-state trooper. We had Bill Malcolm that was at DEI as security guy, but I think his name was Malcolm also in the trailer. But we get there, and he sees right through us two kids and Donnie Ray, and realizes we really probably don't have any business in the pit area. And he told us we can go around the front and buy grandstand tickets like all the rest of the normal people. We can sit up there. So I came back, and Todd had told him a couple fictitious stories trying to BS his way through, and he saw right through those too. So I had to go in and say, sir, look, we drove down here. We do have some friends on the inside. They might vouch for us. They might not. But if you could please see your way through and kind of hook us up and let us in. And he says, all right, son, you approached this the right way. One time, I will work with you. From that point on, once I got down here working with us, I'd always go by and say hi to him. We had a really good rapport. He was just a really neat guy and great to have on your good guy side because he could get you out of everything. But so we came down and we saw Bristol race back when you couldn't get grandstand seats for Bristol and you couldn't squeeze anything else in there. And we stood on the inside and watched Bristol race and had a ball.
Yeah, we were talking about. Oh heck, I done forgot what I was talking about now.
Well,
Forget
anyway,
it.
Brian
Carry
Henry
on.
says he knows why your eyes are brown.
Full all the way to here.
Sure. Yes. Okay. Thank
At
you.
max capacity.
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say I thought some people were jumping on his side. That was you jumping on his side there. Thank you very much.
It's a
Oh,
game.
I remember what I was gonna say now. Yeah. Thanks for that, Brian. I've heard that many times, especially from Kim. She said that to me many times. But I think hers are brown too. So anyway, yeah, I was thinking about how in racing and when you're on a race team, how much it was almost like we were asking for trouble, but we were traveled every week and we were just so used to doing whatever we wanted to do. It seemed like
Yes.
that, we could set a beer down on a conveyor belt and not really have to worry about it. But these people, they're kind of used to seeing us, but not every week. Not if we're like at the Phoenix airport. They don't see NASCAR every week, twice a year or whatever. But in Charlotte airport, it was a little different. But flying out of Signature and those types early in the morning, You know, so in other words, some people did not know how to take us, and we were jokesters, and we did a lot of things that we probably shouldn't have done, things I wouldn't do now.
Right.
And, but we got by with a lot of stuff too.
You know what you call those people that didn't know how to take us?
Yeah.
Normal.
No.
They were the normal people in the world that didn't know anything about racing and
Right.
stock cars or anything else and didn't care.
True.
They had real lives. And, we go now on a Friday. We'll go to Carolina Speedway over here in Gastonia. We'll run across 150.
Oh, that's
and
where
I'll
I used
see
to-
all those people out on their boats and their jet skis and stuff. Look out at them, and we're on our way to the racetrack. All these people need to get a life. What the heck are they doing out on boats when we could go racing?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's what this shirt's for. My nephew raced at Carolina Speedway, and I was building engines for him.
I remember that car.
Yeah, that's right. We
Getting
got a
some-
Facebook page.
Yep, getting some exposure.
Yeah. So, but I didn't, when I went to Japan, you know, Tokyo wasn't used to seeing us leaving their airport at all.
Yeah. No.
So they didn't go quite for the shenanigans. And I thought I was stuck in Japan when I tried to get my samurai sword on the conveyor belt to take it.
that story.
Yeah, to take it as a carry on.
Yep.
I guess you cannot carry a samurai sword as a carry on. So forget it.
Who would have thunk it? I mean, that's just wrong.
I don't even know where my mind was at that point. It's probably all that crappy food I was eating over there,
Or all the beer.
healthy food.
Yeah.
Oh no, they just had
They have rice wine.
sake.
Yeah, rice.
And you know, they had asahi, or maybe that means beer. But anyway, it wasn't the beer. It was the food. There was no fat. There was no lard. And there was no fried stuff.
Yeah.
It was all just,
How do they survive?
I thought I was getting a donut on the plane, and it was white, and it was like, oh, that looks good. On the return trip, I was like, all right, they're going to finally give us some American style food. And then I take a bite into it, and it's just plain dull rice. And right in the middle, there's some like pink egg looking little things in there.
Yeah.
So
Caviar kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
And it was
not for
wrapped
me.
in salmon skin or something like that.
Yeah.
Or eel skin.
Yeah. Give me that sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit. I'll be a happy guy.
Brian
you don't
Henry
see
says
any
y'all
of that.
tore up a lot of rental cars too.
All the rental cars. Yeah, they did. Those guys. I'll tell you what.
Those guys.
Yeah.
I can't deny that one. We got for a while. I was on the blackball list at Enterprise and Hertz, and then all the other ones too. Yeah, I got to the point where we couldn't rent cars.
Yes. Hey, did we say hey to Rule Cronkite?
I have. I've been chatting with
Oh,
him
he was the
here.
one asking about the cutoff tie at Pinnacle Peaks.
Yes.
Okay.
I did say that.
Cratchity, and I always have to remember that, Tim. Hey, what's up, Will? It's good to see him again the other night.
I
Great
ran
guy.
into Will somewhere not too long ago. And yeah, what a cool character.
Yes, very good.
Trying
Very
to think
cool.
of where
He's
that
a-
was.
He's a gentleman.
Yeah, he is. Steve Knight says the Highline race started with the 81 car. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was and Armando was involved in that too. I remember I jacked for that car in 2001, but it was what was Armando's team?
At that point, was that Fitz Bradshaw at that
Fitz.
point?
Yeah, it was Fitz. Bradshaw was coming around. He would come to the race, and he came to Texas. And I remember him asking Armando, because I was standing right there, and we were standing in front of the pit box. Armando's up top, and Mimi, and he's like, "Hey, y'all want to come back to the ranch after the race?" I was like, "Sure," but he wasn't talking to me.
Yeah.
And so, and then Armando was like, "I don't know. You know, we got to do this." And I'm like, "Really? You're telling Terry Bradshaw right now that you don't know if you want to go back to hang out at his ranch?" That just made no sense to me. But you know,
Yeah.
David's
the way it
down
is.
for a party.
Yeah. Oh, he's
Well-
not going to lose one either.
no.
No.
Well, think about it. If he had went and hung out with Terry Bradshaw more, he might have really been more successful. Maybe. I mean, I'm not knocking him, but I guess in a way I am.
Yeah. I mean, you're not as bad on him as I was.
Yeah.
But, you know, I appreciate you being kind about it. Yeah. Hopefully he's not one of your listeners.
No, I don't think so.
Might
I haven't
be
seen him.
incognito.
I haven't seen him in many years.
Yeah.
Have not. And Philip Rhett, I met Philip at Stocks for Tots. His wife has cancer, so hopefully she's doing good now. She's
Stage
going to be on
3.
she's going to get on some new treatment, but she made us some scarves
And some head wraps.
and a head wrap. Yeah.
Head wrap.
Yep. I tried mine on. It fit perfect. So he says, Philip says, Will is a great guy from one of the first signs my wife. He signed Dale Senior's car. I'm sorry. I'm trying to see this with my
Will
eyes.
Cronkite signed his wife's car.
Yes. And I signed it too. He had me sign
The
right
senior car?
right in the front there. I think Dale Jr.'s was in the center, and I was
Dale
right there.
Senior stock car?
Yeah, but I should have done a video. He had his nice, cool number 3 car, just like it was probably a what is it, a 90 Lumina or something like that, and it was the black with the 3 on the sides and the good ranch and all that all over it. Yeah.
Yep, you should have done a video of that. I'm gonna have to go back and look at all your stuff. I'm a little behind on this.
Yeah.
2 kids, race cars,
Yeah.
full time.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Full
Wait a
time,
minute,
kind
hold
of
on.
like almost regular real job.
Yeah.
Closest thing I've ever had to it. You know.
Right.
Yeah. This I'm gonna have to find some time.
Well, I went out with Matt, the guy we were just talking about that I said I didn't see him, whatever. I went out there with him and we signed it at the same time. And then I took his picture with the car and with Philip and his wife. And I didn't even, whatever.
That would be
Like
the
his
great
wife's name's-
Matt Dillner.
Yeah, Matt Dillner.
Is his
That's
wife's
him.
name's Debbie? Is that right? I don't
I
remember.
think so.
I think so.
I hope
can't
so.
remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that's right. Hey, so do we want to look at some of these pictures? Was there any more questions? It was a 98 Monte Carlo. I sent you the video. Oh, 98. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit behind.
Yeah.
It's the Monte Carlo.
We've done this for so many years that the body styles on the cars just kind of all blend after a while.
Yeah, that's that W body. I have, well, it used to be a G body, the old Monte Carlo, right?
Right.
And then it seems like it morphed with the Lumina and then the Monte Carlo.
Not
Miss
to
Stacy.
not to pick on NASCAR again, but this new thing.
Yes.
Just
Speaking of
wait.
morph.
Just wait till this new thing gets to.
They had a couple of them at the PRI show. I can't tell you I'm impressed. I
yeah.
think it's going to be interesting to watch Daytona to see how many of them bump and they're all of a sudden not players anymore.
Oh,
They looked a little. I came up in the IndyCar world. These things are a little too fragile to be a stock car. Stock cars are supposed to be able to beat, bang, knock the wall down, and still finish.
yeah.
Nah, I think we're gonna have a lot of not finishers.
Okay. Yeah.
They got a little teeny tiny toe link that comes from the control arm
Yeah.
back over and over to the spindle, the upright on the rear, all 4 corners, the upright, which is the spindle piece from the upper and lower control arm.
Yeah.
They're the same on all 4 corners. Well, this one has a little tow rod coming back to keep the rear straight. As soon as you bump, that tow rod's going to be broken or bent, and that thing's going to be
Yeah.
Juan Pablo taking out the jet dryer again.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be interesting.
Not good. So yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Will's asking, who was the owner and driver of that number 39 open wheel car?
The one in the picture. That was a factory Duesenberg car at that time. I would love to find where that is. And there are a few of his cars, my grandpa's rides, have shown up in the Speedway Museum, and they've made it back through. My little sister got a phone call, and the car he qualified in the middle of the front row in 26. The owner had brought it back, and it was in the museum. And the Speedway Museum called my sister. They're 15 minutes away. Said, "Hey, bring the family, bring your camera, come down here." So they worked on lighting, let her take pictures. That factory Duesenberg, it's kind of like the Chitty Chitty Bang Bang movie. In those days when they crashed and got hurt, you never know where they're going to show up. And I guess we need Caracata Spots, who was Dick Van Dyke in the movie. We need him to find them and put them back together and make them fly, because that'd be pretty cool too.
Yeah.
But there's one picture on there of the Land Speed car. And if Mr. Cronkite, gets the hit, that was owned by a gentleman from Salt Lake City, Utah, named Ab Jenkins. And they went out and did 24-hour and 48-hour speed runs at Bonneville. They set up a 10-mile circle. Bonneville is so big and open that they made a 10-mile circle. So you just very little wheel into it, very little yaw, and the car would sit and come back around. And it was powered by a V12 Curtiss Conqueror aircraft engine. And the thing that's it. You just had it there. But I need to get the exact numbers, but like in 1948, it ran like 154 mile an hour average. And in 51 or 2, it ran like 160 mile an hour average for 24 and 48 hours. So they'd stop and fuel it. They'd change drivers because they just run continuously. And they'd run one direction for a while, and they'd turn around and run the other direction for a while just to keep it even. And there wasn't necessarily offset built in because it started on a Duesenberg truck chassis. And then when all the guys came back from the war, they did a really cool aluminum body on it and has 4 headlights. And if you look at it, Jay Leno wants to buy the car. It's in a private collector museum in Salt Lake City now, still. And we got invited to come out a few years ago. We went with a motorcycle group that we have
from Indiana. We used to run road race bikes. Tim Halsmer and Doug Schulte and Rick Baker and Rick Dorfmeyer was one of the other ones. But all these guys from the motorcycle industry, we put a road race team together. So then we turned around and went and made a land speed bike out of a couple of them, went to Bonneville and set some land speed records with it. Yeah. So we got invited, since we were coming out, to go over and check out the Ab Jenkins car. And Jay Leno wants to buy that car something terrible, and I swear it's because it has a chin just like his. It goes down and comes way out in the front.
I'm just curious, how does it happen that Jay Leno approaches you to buy a car?
He didn't approach me, unfortunately, but he approached the guys that had it, that owned the car. Jay Leno can find out who has what. He's better than the CIA. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to car stuff, he knows exactly who's who and where things are. Mm-hmm. But he knows of my grandfather, and I believe there was, California guy that he is as well. I believe there have been times that the two of them, when my grandfather was still alive, that they had talked. James Garner, Rockford Files fame, and Grand Prix fame from the racing movie. James Garner and my grandfather, because my grandpa had an air conditioning business for automobiles in Hollywood, California. So you had the studios, you had all the actors, you had everybody. He was right there. So they'd come by and get the air conditioning down on their cars. Mm-hmm. He was putting air conditioning in cars about the time they were putting windows in them. Mm-hmm. So he had this 8-bay air conditioning shop right downtown Hollywood. Nice. So Buddy Epsom, who was
Beverly
Hillbillies. Yep. He would come over and hang out. James Garner would come by, and again, you take the movie people and the racers. So my grandpa was a motorsports director, a racing director. I think they called him back in because they didn't talk about motorsports. It was racing. And he was a racing director for a lot of the movies, To Please a Lady, The Big Wheel, all the different racing movies he did back then, even the Abbott and Costello spoof ones that they did. He had the cars lined up for it, hooked them up with all the right people, and then suggested and did things. So I'll have to hook you up with some more pictures, but I have pictures from my grandpa from the movie days as well. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, it's just some really cool stuff back then.
Brian Henry said Andy was the picture from the 2010 when Jamie won the Daytona and the Brickyard was a fun year. Brickyard.
Yes, it was. Yeah. McMurray pulled some really cool things off that year. We won Daytona and the Brickyard, and I'm fortunate. That was the fourth team I was involved with that won Daytona. For a kid from Indiana that ran sprint cars, it was pretty cool to be involved with teams that went down there and won. Yeah, and built parts and pieces for all 4 cars. So felt like I was not just a small part of them, or a floor sweeper in a corner that happened to get an accolade for. Yeah. And we actually eventually we got rings for all 4 of them.
Oh, that's good. So, yeah. We always did it with Ralph Shates. We always made sure we got rings. Yeah. But my first one was Bill Davis Racing. Anyway.
Were you with Blaney on that?
I was over whenever Ward Burton won.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
Hey, so we're going to switch over to Bryson right quick and see if he has, I think he said he had a question over there. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the Bryson cam, and if you want to show your mullet, you can. If you don't, you
all
have
right.
to, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got one come in on Facebook. So Dave Ellis wants to know, did Mr. Stapp ever race in open wheels down here in Sumter, South Carolina?
Mr. Stapp, that would have to be there. Well, my grandpa was Babe. My dad was the Bopper. I hope he's not calling me Mr. Stapp just because I'm old and gray. He'd hurt my feelings with that.
He's about our age, I'd say. Dave Ellis is with JD and the Breeze.
Exactly.
It's a good band, yeah.
But yes, Mr. Ellis, we come down with our 360 sprint car and run with the USCS down there. Young kid, he's not young anymore. Shoot, he's 26 with a little guy of his own, Eric Riggins Jr. from here in Charlotte, runs the sprint car. I had one. He was a 6-year-old little guy. He came racing with us, and he and his dad came and helped us all the time. So when Eric got old enough, they decided to buy a sprint car, and we got involved and went off racing with them. Yeah. So it was really cool. We got him started in go-kart racing back when he was 6, and now he's developed in. So now we can load the sprint car in the trailer and go run all the things around here. And kid's a wheelman. He does a great job, and we can go in and have as good a chance as anybody of walking out of there with a trophy. And the neat thing he does is when we leave the track and we win, he will find a young race fan, and that young race fan takes a trophy home.
Oh,
And I'm gonna tell you what, it melts my heart every time he does that. That's like
wow.
way cool.
that is way cool.
And he'll just find a little guy or little girl, and they'll get a trophy. And he's like, man, I got plenty of them at home.
Yeah.
But now that he has his little guy, he has to build a trophy collection for his son Ryder. So he may stop giving them away right now, or we may have to get duplicates.
Yeah, right.
Or we got to win a lot more.
There you go.
But yes, we've run down there. We go down. He said Sumter, correct? Mm-hmm. That question. We go down and run Sumter with the Carolina Sprint Tour, and those guys were really desperate and needed help. They thought they needed help. They were desperate enough that they hired me on as a race director for their group. So I go sprint car racing with those guys, and we run a 20 to 22 race schedule all around within 3 hours of Charlotte. So we're trying to build up sprint cars in North and South Carolina and all around the area. And the 305 cars put on a really good show. We're faster just about everywhere we go than the super late models are with the smallest engine sprint car going. So, and we got a really neat group of guys. They travel around. We pick on each other. We all have a lot of camaraderie and fellowship, and we have a great time. So we get to go. And then with Riggins' car, we go 360 and 410 sprint car racing with it. So our summers stay busy.
Hey, Will Cronkite says, met Bryson at Stocks for Tots. He seems to be a high caliber young man. Yes, he seems to be. It's just at the young 16.
Well, thanks. I'll take it.
It's a good compliment coming from Mr. Cronkite.
Yeah, it's an honor to get to meet him last week. It truly was.
Well, you got your picture taken with several people.
Yeah, I said last week I have never in my life been in a room full of so many legends at the same time. So that was pretty cool to get to meet him and many others down there. So that was a lot of fun.
Bobby Allison.
Met Dave Marcus, a couple of them. So that was a lot of fun. Really cool.
Yeah. Was Dave wearing his wingtips?
No,
I think he wasn't he?
Was he?
I think so.
I didn't even pay attention.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Probably
That's
so.
one of the characteristics of Dave Marcus.
Isn't that awesome?
Wingtips.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
The history of these guys, with hanging around with Matt Dillner and Mike Herman Jr., and just the Tab Boyd. There's a bunch of these guys that, through my kid running radio control cars and playing with those things, you get to hang around with these guys, and they are so cool they live and breathe the history of stock car racing. Yeah. And I pick on every one of them. It's like, man, that thing's a big old sled. It's got fenders on it. It's not a real race car. Tires aren't out in the air. Yeah. And those guys tolerate me and put up with me, and we carry on and have fun.
Yeah.
And even Junior was, Dillner's starting to get him turned around a little bit to liking some open wheel stuff, and he promoted the IndyCar race at Nashville earlier this year. And even Dale Jr.'s starting to come around a little bit. We might be able to fix him before long.
I kind of, I've always sort of turned away from a little bit. I mean, like sprint car, Indy cars and all that stuff. But now that I've gotten more of an appreciation of, like, going down to Ormond Beach and seeing how a lot of the stock cars started out that style, and just kind of evolved into stock cars. I've gotten more of an appreciation for it, and just racing in general, like I've had, the history of racing. I just love any type of racing.
And then we have this new young kid. Somebody might have heard of him. Some guy named Kyle Larson. Yeah. And he is bridging the gap between late model sprint cars and bringing fans back to NASCAR also. Yeah. And that guy he's a godsend for all of racing right now, just because he's unbelievable to watch. He's fun to watch him in any race car he gets in. I even watch a few NASCAR races just to kind of see how he does. Yeah. My other little buddy, Justin Allgaier, I'll watch the Busch races. And by the way, it's Cup, Busch, and trucks.
Yeah, that's
They can
right.
do this Xfinity crap all they want to, and it's Cup, Busch, and trucks.
Yeah.
But I watch Allgaier in the Busch side of things, and he's a family friend. My sister works for his dad at a Hoosier tire distributor and speed shop in Indiana. And so we've been tight with the Allgaier family for a long time. What a great group they are also. Yeah. So between those guys, they keep me interested.
Did he get the most popular driver, it seems like?
I believe he did.
Yeah.
Haley Deegan's coming, so you better enjoy it for a while, because Haley's a lot prettier than Justin is.
Yeah. She's got a good bit of following. Yeah.
She does. And she runs dirt sprint cars and mini sprints and everything too. So
yeah, for sure. Larson did really well, and he almost didn't get back into NASCAR. I mean, the way things went.
Yes.
But he did it, and he come back in full force, and very good.
Yes.
I was happy for him.
Me too. I'm very proud of him, and really glad the way that worked out and the way everything came about.
We'll have a few minutes to go over if you wanted to mention or talk about some of these pictures that are going across the screen, but I did want to mention, don't want to forget, Danny Earnhardt Sr. passed away.
Yes.
I wanted to mention him.
And Tim Packman put together a Highway 3 reunion and Brian Henry might need to know about that too. But I'm sure Brian's on the plan on it.
Yeah.
But that is this coming Saturday. So all of us that worked at DEI out on Highway 3 group get together. If you're not aware of it, it's on Facebook in that Highway 3 reunion. I think you can search it up on there. But we're all supposed to meet up. And I was really looking forward to getting to see Danny Ray again. I saw him a couple weeks ago at lunch, and we talked about his new grandson and everything going on and how Danny Ray Jr. is doing really well and all the different stuff. The tough part of that is now Miss Martha, all three of her boys are gone, and Ralph's gone, and Miss Martha's still here with us.
How about that?
So
it's crazy.
That's got to be tough on her, too.
Yeah, for sure.
When Uncle Randy was alive and we were all over at DEI, we'd leave the shop early to go pick up Miss Martha to go to Townhouse 2 in Kannapolis, eat lunch there, take her back home, and then back to the shop. And when the opportunity came about to go to lunch with Miss Martha, the van filled up, and all of us went, and we were just honored to go sit and have lunch with her.
Yeah.
It was, and I'm understanding she's having some health issues now, and I hope she makes it number one to Danny Ray's service on Wednesday, but I hope she might be able to come over for the reunion as well, but I hope to see her, one of the two, because she was just always a sweetheart of a lady.
Yeah, good stuff. And also, I had Danny Senior, Jr. on my show, and I had planned to get Danny Senior on at some point, but yeah.
Not exactly the most talkative a guy, and you might have to prod him a little bit to have gotten more than a yes or no answer on questions, but that's just the way Danny Ray was.
Yeah.
Did you ever go to lunch with him?
I did not. I think the last time I saw him was I knew that Tony, Yuri, and Lynn were down at Myrtle Beach, and they were camping. I believe they were at the campground next to us, pretty close to us. So we got together, and I walked over there, and he was over there with them.
Did
I guess they were camping there as
him?
well too.
I remember meeting Tony.
I believe so, and I was trying to remember if it was Danny or Randy, but I'm pretty sure it was Danny.
Don't know.
Senior.
Tony Senior is just awesomely cool.
He's nice.
Oh yeah.
Danny Ray.
His wife is nice as well.
The reason I asked if you ever went to lunch with him, you learned early on to make sure you were in line in front of him. You didn't get in line behind him. You got your food before he did, and you better eat quick, because he was a very fast eater. He didn't talk. He stayed quiet. He'd eat, and as soon as he was done, he usually had the keys to the van. He was ready to leave.
Oh.
If you were still standing in line, didn't get your stuff yet, you better start prodding them and get it to go, because Danny Ray, when he's done with his, it's time to go back to work.
Yeah.
And so, I learned that early on. So I'd elbow my way up and make sure I was in front of him in line, because, I'm a fat guy. I like to eat a lot.
There you go. And we also lost Nancy Wood yesterday, I believe it was. And then Steve Richards with PRN's not doing well. Phil said Phil said they had given him like a week to live. I guess so. Yeah, man. So what is going on? So
all these neat characters.
Yeah,
and we need to tell them all how much we appreciate them.
That's right.
Before they go away.
Yeah.
If you get a chance to talk to them and let them know just how much they mean to you. I did that with Tony for a while back. Called him and said, "Hey, I don't know if you get a bunch of this from your guys that worked for you, but I really enjoyed the time I spent with you." And he left and went to the Haas CNC team back when they had Buckshot. They had a 0 and a 00 car. And he wanted me to come to work for him over there. Well, I had just left Hendrick and gone to DEI and told Tony Jr. and Tony Sr. that was the last race team I really wanted to work for.
Yeah.
I'd worked on enough of them, figured out they all had the exact same similar problems, and it wasn't really a whole lot better anywhere. So I'm going to finish it out on this one, and I'm done. And then Fur calls and like, "Hey, I'd really like to have you come over here." So I had to go meet with him, explain to him face to face, shake his hand, tell him thank you, but I've made a promise to these guys, and I can't take you up on it. And I would come to work for you in a heartbeat, because I always enjoyed all the time we spent together. He was straight up fair. If he did what he needed you to do, he was great to work for.
Yeah.
We've had the pleasure and the luck of being able to work Glover, Tony Glover. Man, I wish I would have had more time working for him, and he made me feel bad when I left there to go to Hendrick, but it was time to move on and time to make a change.
I'm gonna get him in here because his son-in-law listens. Jason Shoemaker, talk to him quite often. He's a deputy Airedale
He was a
Sheriff
stocks
Deputy.
stocks for tots.
He was. Yep.
I don't know if you get Tony Glover and Red Dog in here at the same time.
Yeah.
This place probably won't ever be the same again. But
Buddy
man, those
Barnes.
two used to have fun together.
Now you saw I had Buddy Barnes on the show.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's right. He was on.
Well, he was. I went to see him. Well, we were
in Florida.
Yeah, we were down in Destin, and he just happened to be in Destin. His
Cousin.
Yeah. And so we got together. I went and bought a microphone for my camera and sat down and just did a little show there. I was like, man, I got to do this while I'm here with him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Those characters and those guys from our years of working in the sport that you always had the stories of and you always looked up to because you know they were doing things right, but they were going to have fun.
Yeah. That's it.
You're looking at all the different pictures. That little blue Corvette right there is one of our projects at Detroit Speed. It went to a customer, and that red truck is a truck we just finished for Kyle Busch.
Oh, okay.
Tom started it and got things going, and then it came to us, and we had to finalize and finish everything. That's a 69 Camaro that was Tux. It won the Battle of the Builders at SEMA. It'll come up again in a little while when it's in finished paint and it's black. That car is 1938. My granddad, that's a Miller car my grandpa ran Indy 500 with, and like I say, in 38. And if you look up close, it has the bricks underneath it. Vanderbilt Cup, they did the Roadsters, and my grandpa drove so many different things, and they put a Roadster together to go run that race. Hey, that's some guy that, that's Willie Spinnett. He used to drive that car, one of my aliases. That's Terre Haute, Indiana, with one of my sprint cars. The Ganassi picture with all of us. Yep. Man, there's some guys in that deal. I worked for Sabco and then broke loose and went away. Hey, look at that. Those are all young guys running around there pitting that thing. Man, we had color in our hair and everything back then.
You're on the front here.
Yeah, I was tire carrier on that one.
Yeah.
The family with my sprint car, that was towards the end of the season. That poor thing was beat up and all the numbers and lettering and everything was knocked off of it. I might have run it. That one might have survived 2 years.
Yeah.
There's Cringe and Mike Hillman on the wall right there.
Yeah, back to the pit crew competition.
Yeah.
And if you're on Facebook and you're not seeing these, you can go to my YouTube channel, DHammiam, and you can see what we're talking about here. We got the pictures scrolling, or of course if you're on the radio. This was a pit crew competition in 1996, and
I think we had a pretty good day that day. Suddy didn't screw us up on that pit stop. He was a little bit quicker that day.
I think was it second maybe.
Yeah,
we did really good. Yeah.
That's a Glenn Funderburk right here on the front carrying the tire around.
Yeah, and you were washing that windshield at that point.
Yep.
And
I moved up from windshield washer to tire carrier.
Yeah.
Or I went the other way. I might have started as tire carrier and went fast enough, went to windshield washer.
This is somebody congratulating your grandfather.
Yes.
I guess the guy that had won the year before.
Yes.
Was congratulating him this year.
Yep.
And your grandfather name was Babe, right? Or his nickname?
His nickname.
Okay.
His real name was Albert Achilles Stapp. And everybody called him Egbert. He didn't like Albert or Egbert. So a race announcer in California tagged him with Babe because he was so young when he started and looked so young, didn't look like he was old enough to even get in the race cars.
Oh, okay.
An announcer tagged him with that, and Babe was a lot better option.
Yeah.
That one's cool. That is a bobber. It was a sprint car and no tail on it or anything. He has no helmet on. He has aviator goggles, and he's running around. I think it was just a shakedown day. He was messing around.
Yeah.
Back in the early days.
No helmet, just aviators.
No helmet, just put it on a pair of goggles, and it's got a sweater on. And probably a necktie at that point even.
Yeah.
They used to dress up fancy with Argyle socks and everything.
How about that?
That is Ascot Park, Legion Ascot, out in California. You can see the California mountains in the background.
Mm-hmm. The Bobby Special.
Yep. There's a book, The Bobby, the Babe, and Me, that was written by the mechanic on that car. And it is, we have a few copies, I think, in the family archive. That picture right there is kind of cool. If your viewers will watch and look at that real closely, I'm going to put you on the spot. Can you name any of those drivers?
I can see A.J. Foyt.
Yep.
And maybe, is that Andretti?
The red fire suit is Gary Bettenhausen, another all-star superstar racer. And the guy in the black and yellow, I just spent Saturday night with him in Indiana at Brad Armstrong's party for Christmas party up there. But that's Kenny Schrader.
Hold on. That's Kenny Schrader right here.
That is Kenny Schrader in the yellow and black. And that ugly kid behind him in the cowboy hat was me.
Oh, no.
And Schrader was driving for Seymour's that day, so I was out walking around. But in those days, you knew all those guys, and they were normal just like everybody else. And it wasn't superstars, So it was
Walk by and talk to him, have conversations with him. And AJ sent, my dad worked for him at the Speedway, so he sent my first 20-inch bicycle home. He sent mini bikes home to us. Matter of fact, he sent 2 mini bikes home with Dad. And can you freeze that one for a second? We'll come back to that. He sent 2 mini bikes home with Dad and said, hey, have Andy pick one he wants. There was a red one and a blue one. I picked a red one, and Tim Cindric. Yeah. Some guy that's kind of halfway, looking pretty good, doing pretty well right now.
His son's
head honcho at Penske Racing. Austin's dad. Exactly.
Yeah.
He got the red one.
Oh.
So pretty neat deal from back when we were kids. And Tim lived a couple houses down from us. Well, Carl and Jan did. That picture was back from 1990, Thursday Night Thunder at Indianapolis Raceway Park. The white car outside is Greg Stapp. Mine is the black and green on the inside of Greg. Behind me is some young kid named Jeff Gordon. And I don't know whatever happened to him, but I thought he was going to be a hell of a race car driver. And I don't know whatever, And that other kid behind him that you can barely see back there in Steve Chrisman's red and blue cars, some guy named Tony Stewart.
Okay.
And again, we were just a bunch of dang kids racing back then. We weren't future superstars. Well, they weren't future superstars. Heck, I never made it to superstar status, but they weren't future superstars back then. They were just kids that had sprint cars and raced with us just the same.
Huh. All right. So as we scroll along to the next pictures, and there it goes.
Yeah, that one has an interesting story too. That's the same pavement car that was in a previous picture. I had crashed. I know you're surprised at that. I had crashed my dirt car on Friday night and destroyed it badly enough that we couldn't, and we had to run a points race with USAC on Sunday at Terre Haute. So we converted the dirt car over, or the pavement car over, dirt tires, dirt shocks, softened the torsion bars up in a little bit, and changed shocks, and went and gave it a shot at Terre Haute, figuring we just needed to get through the day and make a few points to stay alive. And we ran really well, ended up, I believe, 4th that day, made a trophy dash qualifying with a car that was built for pavement and was not at all intended for dirt. It was a totally different deal.
Yeah.
That car, Mr. Vukovic, is on the outside. Steve Butler doing his patented slide job across the grass and skate across the racetrack right rear first in front of everybody. And the white number 4 in the middle was my car from, that would have been 1988, I believe.
Okay. And here's the 39.
Yep. That's the 39 car. That was 1931 at the Indy 500. My grandfather was a driver, and his brother Bill was his riding mechanic. And if you look and blow it up, you can see all the bricks underneath it. That's why they still call the place the Brickyard. The whole entire 2.5 miles of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway was paved with bricks. Look at the tires. They say balloon tire on them. Those were the initial. That's what the Firestone came to, with the pneumatic tires with an inner tube and air inside them from the hard rubbers. And my grandpa used to tell us stories, the vibration from the bricks, because it's like running down a brick road. You get all the shake and everything else. Well, it would come through the tires, it'd come through the steering. And he said after a while, the steering wheel felt like it was the same size as the tires on the race car. It felt like it was huge. Your hands were numb from all the vibration. And it just felt like you were steering this huge, big car tire instead of a little tiny steering wheel.
Yeah.
And they had, you'd switch out drivers back in those days because the guy'd get tired, his arms would get numb, and they'd come in for a pit stop and they'd switch a driver and throw somebody in. They'd go out and make some laps while you kind of worked all the numbness out, and then come back and jump back in and go some more.
And it's like a solid axle in the front, leaf spring.
Yes.
Kind of looking at that.
Yeah, leaf spring front. It was a rear drive. That had an inline straight 8-cylinder Duesenberg engine in it. The thing made ridiculous horsepower for the day. And those cars would run 120 mile an hour or better in 1931.
On the bricks.
On the bricks.
Wow.
That's my youngest son Joey's little outlaw cart. We raced it out at Millbridge. And until now, like I said earlier, he is 6'8" and a quarter, so he has outgrown that thing. Joey in it, we were talking, that was the very first day we bought it and went to the track to run it. And that's Joey and Derek Perniceglio, TV announcer, has a podcast show as well. That's Joey and Derek. We were kind of teammates running out of the same trailer.
Okay.
My dad built that car in 1962 in California. That was the paint scheme for 1965.
Okay.
Dad is the big guy over the left front tire fueling. That's AJ Foyt, 67 Indy 500. They won that day. and Dad was a fueler for it. And that's that same car as the red one. That was the year he built it in '62, and all chromed out, all polished up, flame job. Paul Nerum painted the thing for him.
That's nice.
And that's A.J. Foyt driving the same car at Terre Haute in '65. And that's Johnny Rutherford in that car, or a sister to it, at Terre Haute. Now I don't remember the gold splash car. That's the land speed car that I say looked like Jay Leno's chin.
Yeah.
See the way the front sticks out?
Oh, yeah.
And the land speed car got taken back to Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That's our current sprint car that Eric Riggins Jr. drives. And we, like I say, they allow us to come play with them anytime we can get away and get free to come out.
You think it's Scott Riggins?
No kidding, though.
Okay.
We built a little truck, and it has all the parts and pieces, and there's a toolbox in the back of it, and it has everything we need to service the car. So it goes in the trailer, and the car goes in behind it. One of our Detroit Speed projects right there. It's a '66 fastback Mustang with a new Coyote engine and all of our suspension components underneath it. That was a '70 Boss 302. It had 67,000 miles on it. It was basically not a barn find, but a guy had it put away in a barn.
That's pretty.
'66 fastback we built for Holly Corporation. And in December, they bought Detroit Speed, so they're now our bosses after we built the car for them.
What year was John Callis? He was he's watching right now, actually. I was trying to remember what year he has. He has a fastback. Anyway, I'll show you pictures of it whenever we're done.
Yeah, I'd be interested in that.
Will Cronkite says, where did those early cars get their knockoff hubs? Did we ask that one?
No, we didn't ask it.
Okay.
Nope. Ted Hallebrand from Hallebrand Rear Ends used to make the front end rear hubs for those cars. The rears were a tapered axle with a hub and a bearing pack that went onto them. The fronts were international spindle, and they made steel 6-pin hubs that went on with a standard nut and a cotter pin, just like a regular wheel bearing situation like we used to run up till a few years ago. Yeah. And Hallebrand made all those, and he made the wing nut, the forged aluminum wing nuts that we used on them.
Yeah. All right.
Hey, we've rotated back around to the cool Corvette. Sweet little ride.
All right, so that's it. We're back to the original beginnings. All right, so do we have any more questions over there, Bryson?
We do not.
Do not.
No more
Somebody's got to come up with a question because Bryson looks bored.
Well,
no.
We're actually.
Brian Henry does want to know where the reunion's going to be.
The reunion is at Old Armor Brewery in Kannapolis, right down by the baseball park. Okay. And it starts at, I think they said gates open at 3, hot laps at 4. We're supposed to go over to the Big E statue at 4 o'clock with everybody and get our picture taken with the Earnhardt statue, which I'm looking forward to. And then back to the brewery for the rest of the lives and entertainment of the night. When my kids, we live right across the street from the Earnhardt statue. When they put that up, they put a big silver tarp over top of it before they unveiled it. My guys were convinced that was a rocket ship. They looked out the front of the house, they could see that over there, and they were convinced that was a rocket.
Aw.
Yeah.
And they were so disappointed when it came off and it was Big E.
Aw.
Yeah.
Well, all right, so Dickie Dennis says, terrific show tonight. Awesome stories from Andy. Thank you for sharing your racing roots.
Thank you.
Will
Glad you was
Cronkite says
entertained.
he worked with the Jigger at Indy in 1970.
Jigger Royce. Was that with the turbine car? Because Jigger ran a couple turbines there as well.
Now, I'm not sure. He just says he worked with Jigger at Indy in 1970.
Yes.
Which is the year I was born.
You youngster, you.
Kenny Colesback says hi. We were talking about you earlier,
Scott
Kenny.
We were.
Did you
Kenny's.
see my question a minute ago?
My son enjoys the heck out of working for Kenny. Kenny's just been. Kenny worked with us at Sabco.
That's right.
And his brother Keith.
Yeah.
And then the Gagner boys.
Yeah.
We had Gagner brothers over there as well. But
Mike.
Kenny's just always been. He's that cool character.
Yeah,
He's just fun.
Yeah.
There was one question I missed, apparently. So Scott Felthausen says, does Andy have any good Do-It Hewitt stories or Andy stories? I can't even read.
Absolutely.
He says, any stories just between us. Hee
Yeah. Jack Hewitt stories. Hewitt was my favorite. Still is. Just, man, he was great to race with. One of my favorite ones, we went to Eldora. The first time I ran there, Eldora's big and intimidating. It's the first time I'd been on a big half mile. Run down the corner, and if you didn't really make an effort to drive up on the racetrack, the car would run right through the middle, and you're into slick
slide along and just not fast. And Hewitt comes over, and I actually missed the show the first time we were there. And he came over the next time we rolled in. He's like, Steve, I need to take the kid for a little bit. So we're standing there and we're talking. He said, when you're running down the back straightaway and you get to the pit gate, you have to make your hands turn to the right. And you make the front tires turn to the right, and you make this thing drive up the banking. He said, even you can't hit the wall going into turn 3. The racetrack, even you can't hit the wall here and crash here. And Dad's like, whoa, hang on a minute. Yeah. I've seen him do some really dumb things. He's capable of that too.
I bet he could.
But Hewitt says, nope, he said, I promise you, when you figure that out, you'll roll right around the top of this place. So the first week we went there, we missed the show, and I was actually embarrassed. So it's one of those things you kind of got to get in your head. So we're going to run on top of everything. So every exit ramp, every corner I knocked the right side wheels in on my cool little El Camino that I had, railing the top of everything and banging off of rocks that were on the outside of the road and everything else. But for the next 2 weeks, because we got rained out in between, then we went back for an all-star show with wings, and we ran 4th the second time back at Eldora. And he was like, all right, I'm not helping you anymore. But Jack was just such a cool character. Years and years of racing with him, I learned some of the most important things that still to this day stay with me in life. Mm-hmm. Number one, I don't drink water because Hewitt told me a long time ago about what fish do in that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So, yep, water's out. And Hewitt was always that way. And he loved to eat at Wendy's, so I still have that. I'm still a Wendy's guy. Mm-hmm. And we went to Kokomo one night, and everybody's rolling the bottom of Kokomo, running around the bottom, and Hewitt just made up his mind and went to the top and worked the top cushion in, worked a groove in around the top, came from the back, and won the feature. And the announcer's talking to him after it was over with. He says, okay, Jack, everybody's on the bottom. What made you decide to go try the top? Obviously, it worked for you. You came in and won. But what made you, he says, if you're going to run around the huggy pole all day long, you might as well get a day job. This is grow a pair and move up on the fence and make it happen. Mm-hmm. And Hewitt was always just one of those guys I looked up to hugely. Indiana, Andy Hillenberg. At the Indy Mile, we were on the Hoosier 100 one year, and he says, are you helping anybody? You doing anything? I said, no, I'm going to actually go down the corner and watch this thing. He says, good. Every 10 laps, put a hand out with a finger. 100-mile race, he says, I lose track of laps, so give me an indicator so I know how many laps we're in, where we are. So we're doing that. On the 98th lap, he's leading, he's checked out, he's gone away, and he blew a right rear tire. And he rolled around there the last 2 laps on a flat tire. Instead of parking it in the pits, it's over with. He rolled 2 laps on that flat right rear and finished. And that just showed so much gusto and determination, and that, I was always an Andy Hillenberg fan because we were just buddies growing up, but I earned a lot of respect for him that day as well. And I was heartbroken for him because he had it race 1, and I think it probably took him those last 2 laps to get all the emotions out of his helmet where he could climb out of that thing when it was over with. Sure. But he drove for us. I got hurt a couple times. I broke my neck in '88, so we put some guys in my car, and Andy was one of the guys. And my dad is in the office, and he calls Hillenberg from the shop phone. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have caller ID. We didn't have any of that stuff. And Andy answers. He says, hey, Drew, you have a ride for Kokomo tonight? Nope. Would you like to drive my stuff? Absolutely. Man, I'd love to. It'd be great. And they talked for a little bit. And Dad says, hey, you know who you're talking to? Andy says, nope. Dad says, well, how are you going to figure out what car you're going to drive? I'm going to take my stuff. I'm going to go to Kokomo, and we'll walk around until somebody goes, all right, come get in this thing. I figured I'd figure out who it was I was driving for when I got there. Yeah. And then Dad told him who it was. He goes, oh, wow, Bopper, I get to drive for you. And it was a whole different, he's like all excited. And it's cool. I still see Andy. He has his businesses down here, and I still see him around town every now and then. And we've both grown a little bit older. But it's just good to see the people that you grew up with and raced with. We ran 4 or 5 nights a week against each other all over Indiana.
So we had a couple more comments, and then we got to get off here because we're got to go back to the regular radio. And Scott Trevison says hello from Daytona. He's a little late to the party.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, he's missed out on all this talk for the past 2 hours.
The Brew Crew, Scott Trevison.
All right.
Is that the one?
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
That's it.
I got a text from his wife,
Yeah.
about Sterling's book.
Right. Yeah.
So,
the reunion's coming up.
Looking forward to that as well.
January. So we'll be sharing more information about that here coming up soon. But
Cool.
it's I've got all the info for it. We'll post it on. Well, we're sending it out to people that we know worked with us and are wanting to come. So Bob Pedersen says the USAC restricted the turbine so much after Parnelli in '67 and Lotus of '68, and they weren't that competitive. This is after Will Cronkite said the last of the turbine cars.
Yes.
Back in, and
They ran the turbine in the Champ Dirt car on the miles, and the turbine, you had to have really good brakes because it doesn't have that deceleration. It gets up, it gets wound up, and the RPMs are out of control. And I was a kid when they ran them, but I loved hearing the stories from the guys through the years. But the turbines would run like crazy, and they'd go down the straightaway, but you had to have good brakes to slow the thing down to
no engine
try
braking.
to get behind because it had no engine brake with it.
Yeah. Will Cronkite says started out with the 24 square inch of annular input area, inlet area, and the jigger was trying to qualify with 12 square inch.
Yes.
Yeah.
They came up with a big restriction for them.
Yeah.
And that was that was their early restrictor plate for the turbines, was they only allowed a certain air intake on it.
Yeah.
Just like what a restrictor plates do under the carburetors now.
Yeah.
Same thing, they restricted the air intake so that turbine could only get so much air into it, and they could only make so much horsepower.
Okay.
And they could continue to play with the size of what they allowed them and kind of regulate it to run with the rest of them.
Okay. How about that? You got any more questions over there, Bryson?
I do not.
Okay.
I do not.
All right. Well, thanks everybody so much for joining us this evening. Make sure you hit that thumbs up and check out my website, DHammiam.com. I'm working on it still, work in progress.
Hit that bell notification.
Yeah. If you want to hit the subscribe, we do this every Monday evening at 7:00, and we have a story from a new guest that tells us their racing roots, their story, their path, their racing roots. And Andy Stapp, thank you so much for coming on with us.
And thank you for having me. It's a blast.
Oh, good.
And
Has been for me.
always fun to be able to share a couple stories here and there and tell some of our histories.
And you're losing your voice because you were PRI.
PRI.
Yeah.
We went up and back and a whole lot of running around and weather changes and everything else.
Yeah.
That or I'm going through puberty. I'm not sure exactly which one it is, but I'm thinking, I think it's the Indy trip, not puberty.
Yeah, that's it. It could be. It could be a little bit of both. You just never know.
It's a possibility.
Yes. And one more comment. Will Cronkite says, great show. And past my bedtime. Good evening. And then Brian Henry had said he's checking out too, but he may make it Saturday, but no promises. And Danny and Gray's Cards and Toys, he says, well, thanks so much for your kind words. Last Tuesday, I talked to you about our YouTube channel. Also seeing you. Nice again. Nice seeing you again. I mean, talking to Will Cronkite.
Absolutely.
Right. Yes. All right. So we will see y'all next Monday. I have no idea who the guest is going to be yet. We'll get there when we get there, right?
That's right.
And
Winging it.
yeah, and hello to Phil Cavalli who missed tonight. So we'll see. Maybe we'll see him back next Monday. He's getting some rest.
I was actually looking forward to getting to see Phil.
Yeah, it's been a while for you. I'm
The
sure.
shows I've watched getting used to getting adjusted right here.
Yeah.
I didn't get to see him in any of the shows because you didn't put a camera on him.
Yeah, sometimes.
And I'm like, man, I mean,
yeah.
You missed out.
Well, he,
I did.
So you just had to come back when
I'm
he's here.
heartbroken.
well,
I
ever
will.
since the beginning, he's been like, well, I don't need a camera. I'm just going to sit here and talk and whatever. But sometimes he gets a camera. Sometimes he gets it down here in the bottom, depending on if I have all my cables and that kind of stuff.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We have grandstands and seats over here, so I can come back and
Just sit in the audience
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
You can.
maybe even heckle.
Come
but
every
at least
Monday.
be quiet over there and have
That's
some
right.
fun.
You come all you want. Come back next
Perfect.
Monday.
I know where to find you now.
That's right. All right. Well, y'all have a great week, and we'll see you next Monday. So good night.
Real country.